open session this morning. Before we start, as always, let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's start. It's been, I think, a couple weeks since Priority Carol. Let's start with Priority Carol, Commissioner Boucher.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to start out before we bring up some stuff I did. Let me real quick run off some new hirees. Angelica Roop, Collections Clerk. Michael Armacost, Weekend Support Farm Museum. Susan Malaire, Weekend Support Farm Museum. And Kelsey Pinzau, Paralegal to State's Attorney's Office. Welcome aboard the county. And Commissioner Frazier and I did the Big Country Breakfast at the Career and Technology Center, and that was a wonderful event. We're big supporters of Career and Technology Center. The students prepared all the food. They did a wonderful job. They had the bunny there. I did not sit on the bunny's lap, but a lot of kids did. Big turnout. Wonderful event for everyone to go out there and see what's going on at the Career and Technology Center. We have a lot to be proud of with our young men and women that are developing their careers. And these individuals eventually will probably be working. Well, there's Dr. Eckel. He got to sit on the bunny's lap. But these individuals will be out in our restaurants in the future, and some of them will wind up being small business people and entrepreneurs, and the foundation of that is in the Career and Technology Center. Tomorrow evening is Anastasia. School plays are back, thank goodness. I'm a big fan of the arts, and throughout the COVID pandemic, the plays had been stopped and put on hold, so the students are very excited and happy about this. I'm a big fan of the arts because I think arts projects intelligence and creativity, and from developing that within the school system to go forth into their careers with that artistic ability. And then this Tuesday, I went out with the Stream Health Survey. I forget the exact name of it, but our staff goes there. This is Director Hines and water technician Madigan, I believe is his name, Byron Madigan. I went out there and helped them go through the streams. It's amazing how many little organisms and critters are living in the streams, and they do this annually. There's numerous creepy little bugs here in the water. They collect these items and little fish, and they send them off to a lab. And it's really interesting that by capturing all these little creatures and send them to a lab, they can gauge the healthiness of our waterways and how it impacts ultimately the bay. And this was really exciting. As someone who loves the outdoors, I was happy to go out there and play in the water, and there's a salamander and find all these little critters. Unfortunately, they put them in like an alcohol jug and kill them so they can be sent to a lab. But it's important for them to gauge. They do a small amount of them. You can't eat them though. But they have to send them off to a lab and dissect them and examine them. And that is a good indication of the healthiness of our waterways. And from what I've been told, that our waterways have increased in health, and that ultimately affects our quality of our water system in the county. I think that was it. Thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioner Weaver.
Okay, speaking of the outdoors, I guess we start Monday with the walk in the park at Sandy Mount, and it's 10 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, Chris has all the future ones coming up, and then we go to Westminster Community Pond at what was that, 6 p.m. And I thought most of them were at 6. Sorry, I can't make Sandy Mount. It's going to be, wife has a doctor's appointment, so Commissioner Frazier, I think Boucher will be there to do a couple.
We don't have a race.
Couple rounds around the park.
Commissioner Frazier said he's going to outwalk me because his legs are longer.
Anyway, please be aware, I think they have a grand prize now for a person who makes all the walks or a drawing for that grand prize. So this is a good thing for the Parks and Recreation. And on next Wednesday, the 27th, Special Olympics here in Westminster, so that's always an exciting event. And with that, move on.
Okay, Commissioner Wance.
So, good morning. Hold on a minute, let me get my notes here.
That was your first good morning?
Yeah,
Chris?
that was,
Okay.
well, you know, I'm looking to see what's next, so, we just got done with the budget, and I want to thank all the folks that were involved with that. It goes on the road show now, the Ted Zaleski Road Show. I don't know if you've got those coming up, but it's on our website, and make sure you, if you're interested, that you hit one of the library branches. It's coming up in the next 2 weeks. And then we have a public hearing scheduled for May the 10th, right? May the 10th? I think.
It's
I don't
at the Arts Center, right?
It's at the Arts Center in person. There we go. Here we go. I knew we could find it.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep, May the 10th is the public hearing on the proposed budget. And make sure you if you're interested and if you've been paying attention, and if you'd like to have your say and something perhaps you don't agree with or whatever, that's your chance. And then, as you see here, are the dates for the presentations that Ted will be making at our various library branches. So they're listed again on our website. So I will once again say that we are one of, if not the only county in the state that does the budget in the way that we do it, in front of the cameras. Hard decisions, hard discussions, challenging decisions are made right there in front of everybody. So it's a great way to do it, I think. So that's where we are. April 27th, you talked about Special Olympics. Just a shout out to our Bureau of Aging and Disabilities. They'll be celebrating their 50th anniversary that morning as well. And attended Random House. I saw Random House on here. Attended Carroll Community College board meeting in the past several days, and their book fair is coming up again. A little bit different. They're kind of hybrid this year, but that's on Saturday, May the 21st. You can go to the Carroll Community College website to get the information on that. That's always a huge event out there. Again, it's going to be a little different, but check out what's going on there. And I think that is it for me right now.
Okay. Thanks. Commissioner Frazier.
Okay, so I've crossed off almost everything I was about to say. About the walk in the park, about Special Olympics. I'll be at both of them. I'll be Sandy Mount Walk in the Park, and I'll be at the Special Olympics. I also have Battle of the Books this Friday. I don't write down where it was, but I think it's at Westminster. I could be wrong on that, but Battle of the Books on Friday. I hope everyone enjoyed their holiday, whether it was Easter or Passover, enjoyed it with family and friends and so forth. And I have to say I was very busy over the holiday because, I have mentioned this before, my first granddaughter was born on Tuesday, and I've been going back and forth, seeing her and my daughter, and even my son-in-law. I even said hi to him every now and then up at the hospital. So I just want to, it's just all that just takes a lot of time. Additionally, I've had to have my daughter's dog at my house the entire time, which mixing with my dog hasn't been the easiest thing, but it's worked out fine. No one's gotten injured yet, so it's all worked out. So it's all good. That's all I have. Thank you.
And you, congratulations, first of all. And your granddaughter has a lovely name.
What is it?
Laney.
Oh.
I wonder why you said that.
What?
I wonder why you said that.
So, absolutely beautiful. Now, Dennis, they're beautiful pictures. It's always great to celebrate life, and Mazel Tov to you. And as you shared, those that celebrated Easter, hoping they had a very blessed and festive Easter. Those continuing to celebrate Passover, again, a happy Passover. And those in the middle of Ramadan is the same, and have a healthy fast throughout the days of Ramadan. I've said, can't boil the ocean, you can't fix everything, but you could sure think about some of the challenges we have. And just keep in mind what's going on over in Ukraine. There are 5 million folks that have now left Ukraine. I mean, we're getting to like 7 to 11% of displacement, and it's getting worse. So just keep them in mind for strength and courage as they move through the challenges. It was mentioned the budget. It's not our budget, the five of us up here. It's your budget, and so it's only as good as what we put into it. We being the county, so we look forward for the county to continue to share your priorities as we shape the budget and make it into law by the end of May and put it in place by the next fiscal year, which is 1 July. But it's really relying on you now at this point to share with us your ideas, and we'll move forward. Commissioner Weaver and I attended the Veterans Council. I think we were always impressed and humbled by the community that comes out to the Veterans Council and the diversity within the council, coming up with the right ideas, or I don't want to say right ideas, the good ideas in supporting our veterans, from veteran support officers. Our DCS citizen services, I think, are just amazing, from Celine and Gina and Leslie and that whole team, working together. And I know I'm missing a few, but just the work that they do. The Veterans Celebration is May 15th. It is to highlight our veterans in Carroll County, but nobody knows Carroll County better than Carroll Countyans. It's for everybody in Carroll County to attend. We have static displays from helicopters to military vehicles, vintage vehicles, U.S. Army Field Band, and really looking forward, 12 to 4, rain or shine, on May 15th. Did you want to add something?
The other thing is, we're trying to get some, celebrities there, maybe a Raven or an Oriole or ex-Oriole here to walk in
Oh,
the
I
crowd
thought you
and
meant
talk to
me.
people. So these things are
I was gonna say,
hopefully coming together, and that's aside from the commissioners, that is.
Not famous,
But,
not infamous, famous.
Oh,
There's a difference.
yeah, this is going to be a good event. Police department, I know, will be there, helping out with this. So this is going to be a tremendous event for Carroll County. Hopefully, 3,000 or 4,000 people will decide to come out to this event and be a part of it.
I know where we can get a former Oriole pitcher at.
Okay, the last thing I just want to share is, like Commissioner Frazier, I have Battle of the Books on Friday over at Century High School. Really looking forward to that opportunity and those kids, sharing their excitement as competing in Battle of the Books. It's always a great event, so really looking forward to that. Okay, without any...
One thing I forgot, you had
Please.
mentioned in the musicals,
Yes, sir.
the Francis Scott Key High School.
I'll be there.
Musical starts Friday night, and they're doing Shrek, which is a good musical, and there are similarities. Never mind.
I'll be there Saturday night.
I was gonna go. I'm not gonna go there.
Are you
Okay.
attending?
I'll be there Friday night.
All right. Well, you'll be there Friday. I'll be there Saturday.
Okay. Yeah. So that's at the Francis Scott Key High School.
Are there any other alibis? Okay, seeing here none. Why don't we start with Mr. Fowler? Give
Who?
us a
Who?
wrap-up
Who?
of what occurred down in Annapolis, and give us your parting thoughts as the day completed.
He looks happy now. We're done with session.
Everybody involved with that is happy. So I think this session, we had some wins in the things that were important to us. I mean, there are always wins and losses, but I think the wins were good ones. First thing, though, I want to talk a little bit about the legislature itself. Some big changes will be coming, this being an election year. You have two longtime committee chairs that are retiring. So Senator Dolores Kelly has the Finance Committee, and Delegate McIntosh of Appropriations. Both of them are retiring after long service in the General Assembly. The Speaker has appointed the replacements for Delegate McIntosh, who is Ben Barnes, Prince George's County. I should mention also Delegate Pendergrass is the chair of Health and Government Operations, is retiring as well after a long spell in the General Assembly. And her vice chair, Delegate Pena Melnick from Prince George's, has been named as her replacement, the new chair. And then you've got 8 senators either retiring or, well, in this case, or going for another role. Senator Edwards, Senator Casserly, Senator Hoff is going for county executive in Frederick County, Obie Patterson, Senator Young in Frederick County, and then Senator Ed Riley in Anne Arundel County. It was just announced that he's not going to seek re-election. And then in the House, you've got 12 who will be either retiring or attempting to move to another role.
Session must have been that rough.
Some of these have been, I guess, in the making for a while. So, of course, the district or the delegation is going to change with Delegate Shoemaker and Delegate Krebs retiring. So, some big changes to come. And several of you, I know I don't have to tell you that. So quickly, I want to do just some of the highlights. I gave you a new copy of this summary because there's an important detail in here that was changed. I cheated our ambulance companies, and I'll get to that in a moment. But of course, highway user revenues, that was a big win for us. I still haven't seen the breakdown by county, so what it means to Carroll County, but I assume that Mako is working on putting that together, and you'll get that if you haven't seen it from another venue already. And then the codifying of the 50-50 split in the election expenses, that was, I think, a big win for us. The emergency transporters, I had on your original that the increase was $25 per year up to $300. It's actually $50 per year, and there's no limit on it. But there's a study that will be conducted that will determine what these rates should be. But in the near term, they're scheduled to increase $50 per year for the foreseeable future. The Family and Medical Leave Insurance Program, that did pass. We talked about that and the details involved there. It was pretty interesting because, remember, in the House, the talk was let's study this again because the last study was 2019, but the economy had changed in such a significant way that it would be better to look at this. The Senate had other ideas. They decided to create the program, set up the funding in advance, and then implement the program in 2025. So the contributions will begin, I believe, next year. There's a study due the end of the year to determine what the rates, contribution rates will be between employers and employees. But the employees will and the employers will be contributing for about 18 months before anyone can even benefit from this program. Of course, we talked in detail about the criminal history records check bill that you all put forward, and that got amended to simply allow volunteers, to include volunteers, but to limit it for those that were responsible for the care and supervision of minors. I think that's a pretty general description, so I think there are, for instance, if you're looking at fire and EMS, that's something that I think would fall under that. So we didn't get everything we wanted there, but we got a lot. Of course, the Climate Solutions Act passed. I think that's going to be transformational. You'll probably read a lot of details as we move forward on that, what that means. But you can see a long list of things that move forward in that bill. Some of the big things that didn't go forward were a specific phase out of natural gas. That was removed from the bill. I think they realized what a significant impact and change that would be across the board. So that didn't make it through. The solar agrivoltaics bill did pass. That creates, well, I should say it applies the term of agrivoltaics, which is the ability to install solar panels on ag areas and continue to grow crops. They did get limited. You'll see on there that it talks about 2026 as a date. It's only applications that are through 12/31/2024. So it is much more limited now for folks that could take advantage of that. We talked about the enforcement authority for the Department of the Environment, that there was still some concern about the language of willful violations, and how your employees could be held personally liable. That bill did not move forward, so I suspect it will come back again in some form, and MACO will continue to argue on those points. Also, the constitutional amendment to establish environmental rights did not make it through. That's been put forward the last couple of years. I suspect we'll see that one again next year. One that concerned us was the property tax for agricultural accessory use improvements. There were concerns about this leading to abuse, where someone could come in and put in a large installation on a farm and get the ag property tax assessment for that. That was determined or sent to a summer study. We were able to get an amendment in there that they would have to abide by any planning and zoning requirements. So if something was not allowed to go in that ag zone, it wouldn't be able to fall under this. But it's gone to a summer study, so nothing in the short term there.
Who promoted that?
Let's see, that was Senator Elfrith from Anne Arundel County. She has the Annapolis area.
Okay.
Yeah, and she had another senator on there with her that escapes me at the moment, but she was the primary.
Prince George's, maybe? Prince George's, maybe?
It could have been.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It
I'm
could have
just
been.
curious. I mean, it just seems
Montgomery? I don't know.
it seems more of a Prince George's or type of a bill, not a.
I think it was Montgomery.
So I'm just curious. Okay.
Are you thinking Senator Pinsky?
That's what I'm thinking.
Could be.
Yeah, I think
Could
that's
be.
where it was.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
remember.
Because I
but-
remember Elrich yapping about it a little bit somewhere.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So, anyway. Yeah.
That fits the mold.
Yeah.
Senator Pinsky. The library funding bill did go through, so the libraries will see an increase in their funding. A couple of bills I highlight that failed that were had the potential to be expensive. The video recording in special education classrooms, the funding on systemic renovation projects where they would allow systemic renovations as an eligible cost for reimbursement. Unfortunately, that failed. And then the other damaging one would be the fossil-based energy system costs. So that would preclude any fossil fuel-based HVAC system from being considered for reimbursement in school. Cannabis was a big issue this year, and so we have a referendum question on the ballot in this year's election. Do you favor legalization of adult use cannabis in the state of Maryland? And they have also passed a bill that would decriminalize certain amounts and also set up conditions for expungement of criminal convictions and also release from incarceration for these minor marijuana convictions.
Is adults 21 or 18?
21. A couple of election bills. The Voter Rights Protection Act would have added an additional 3 days to early voting. And the polling places at continuing care retirement communities, another bill we've seen in the past. Both of those failed. They would have been very expensive for the local boards. Also a bill that would have been beneficial, and I know that Tim was looking forward to this one, but the ability for municipal corporations to form their own administrative charging committees and police accountability boards did not move forward. So you've got to form those for the municipalities as well.
Okay. I saw that Stuart Pittman put his together. Did you see that?
I did. There's quite a salary there, isn't there?
There is, and it's interesting because they had two dozen people.
For the accountability board,
Yes.
Yeah.
he's putting a salary on the
I
accountability board.
think it was Prince George's County is paying a salary to the chairperson of the Police Accountability Board.
Yeah.
A nice salary, 25,000 or something like that.
I mean,
Yeah.
Anne Arundel County has 2 jurisdictions.
Yeah.
That's it. Annapolis and this little rinky-dink, you know.
I know that Prince George's is doing the salary. I'm not sure about Anne Arundel,
Yeah,
but
I
that's an
don't-
amazing
I-
amount
both
number of
them
people
were
on
in
that
the mix
board.
at the same time
Yeah.
in the past couple days. And
Yeah. That's a lot of people.
he had like 2 dozen people put in for it, which
Wow.
in Anne Arundel. I don't know about Prince George's, but it was interesting to me that
Do they have 2
that
dozen?
amount of people would put in for it because honestly, it's gonna. I don't know that I'd want to serve on there, and I don't know you're going to find that would. How do you want to put it?
Choose your words.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's going to be tough to find the right individuals with the right mindset to be able to serve on these boards. That's where I'm trying to
Well,
go.
the
here.
good part
Is that
man,
polite?
We're going to have the
Yes.
conversation in a few minutes.
Yeah. So, what were you going to ask, Roberta?
So they had 2 dozen people apply to be on the board, not
Yeah,
2
yeah. No,
dozen seats
to
on the
apply
board.
to be on. Well, I don't know
Okay.
how many seats they have,
Got it.
but he did a big press thing on it. So whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, well, Prince George's has 27 municipalities. I don't know
Yeah.
how many have police forces. I would say at least 10.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, that's
Rich
completely
probably knows.
different.
22 of the 27. There you
They
go.
have 22 police force. Wow. Yeah. Anne Arundel,
And
like I say,
forming a separate board for each one because you have to have someone from
eh,
the municipality on the board.
Okay.
To reconstitute it.
It's a lot of boards.
it's a lot of boards.
Okay. Anyway.
Hard to believe.
Yeah.
The body camera, surprisingly, legislation did not pass. The omnibus 911 bill did pass, though. That enables the counties to increase their portion of the fee to whatever level is necessary to cover their costs. There were some counties apparently that were not able to completely fund based on their previous allotment.
I apologize. Going back to the body cameras, you're saying it did not pass. Who was, I mean, aggressively against us?
Yeah, I can't tell you that. There's a I would say a block of folks that are opposed to anything that limits what was passed last year.
It just seems to me it's good
The
practice.
ACLU is a significant opponent of taking any of these actions. They're starting to harm themselves, though, the way they're coming at this. They're starting to make it personal.
Yeah.
They organized a protest outside of Senate, the chair, Smith, of the Senate Judiciary Committee, or judicial proceedings, and they've sort of declared war almost on him, and a lot of his colleagues are sympathetic and pushing back. So the ACLU is I think they've done a lot to harm themselves.
Good.
in
They're
this.
against the state paying for the programs?
No, they were against limiting what could be.
Oh, okay, yeah, right,
Right.
because you said, okay, I was just confused there, because I'm
Yeah,
looking
there's
at the last one.
a couple of
that-
aspects to
Right,
the
okay,
bills, right?
right. I was gonna say, why would they be against the state paying for it? But I
Yeah,
don't
they
know.
they don't have a
Okay.
dog in that fight. I
Right, I
don't
didn't,
think.
I didn't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on public safety, the gas piping bill, the Flynn and Laird Act did pass, which is great. That came in late, as you know, but obviously got a lot of support. And I think I mentioned to you, the widows were in the gallery on the day it was passed. The statewide Targeted Overdose Prevention Act did pass. I think you all mentioned support for that. That widens the scope of who can administer naloxone, and also requires it to be dispensed free of charge under certain conditions. Also, a bill that was in early was Senator Reedy's bill and the delegation's bill, which would require you as sitting as the Board of Health to act as an appeals board. That did not pass. There was some talk of trying to include the appeals aspect of that in another bill related to the health directors, but it did not pass. I think they got the state health directors agreed to put information about appeals on their websites, but that's about all they got out of that. Two bills that were really going to be expensive, the Legionnaire's Disease Prevention Act and the mold inspections and remediation bills, both did not pass. And then the cybersecurity bills, the three we talked about, there were a lot of late amendments to those bills, but they did pass. And you have the highlights here. I think Mr. Ripper can probably, drill down and give you an idea of what they actually mean for Carroll. But overall,
Mike, I got a
generally.
question. I'm sorry.
generally positive. Yes.
The Maryland Paint Stewardship Bill, you know why didn't that pass? I thought that was, people
Yeah,
were behind it. I thought it was going
went
to
through
move
the
forward.
House, but got hung up in the Senate, and I think the same thing may have happened last year. And I'm not quite sure
I don't-
what the issue is.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know why people were against
I
it.
think it's the idea that there's a fee added to a container of paint. And it's an election year, and I think some people are a little sensitive to increasing the cost of goods at this particular time. I think that's what
Yeah, that could be
what
it, yeah.
sinks it.
All right, thank you.
So everyone looks very happy about this.
Not as happy as you.
Well,
I mean, there were some good things that came out of there.
Yeah.
Let's
No,
be
there
clear.
were.
I mean,
Yeah, all
there's,
kidding
you know,
aside,
there,
yes.
yeah, there were. I mean, the big ticket items, however, I think, you know, as always, got jammed up in what letter you have beside your name. And that's just the way it is. So,
It is, when you watch the votes, if there's a vote that, the Republicans, either a bill they don't agree with, or something they want to move through, the votes will always be in that margin of, 92, 97. It's a caucus, the Democratic caucus is one that really sticks together.
Yep.
They're highly disciplined.
yeah, I agree. The local, what do you call that? The local bills, giving somebody local
Courtesy.
courtesy. How many, and not an exact number, there were some bills that were put in place that were expecting local courtesy that did not achieve that.
That's right.
And that's not the norm, is my understanding.
It's not. I think it's starting to happen more. So the bill that would limit, the Carroll County bill that would limit the student member of the
Yeah.
school board
Yeah.
was amended. There was also a bill to increase the salary of the Frederick County Sheriff. And that actually got to the floor and was defeated on the floor, which is really unusual. A bill is really
Why,
going to
why would that happen? I mean, did
well-
you understand the sentiment of that?
The several of the it was the issue with the sheriff himself. I mean, the bill
Okay.
would
Yeah.
not apply. It would apply for the incoming sheriff. Now, there
Right.
could be the same individual, or it
Sure.
could be another.
Sure.
But one of the delegates from Prince George's stood up and claimed that this individual organized a protest with people with T-shirts that said, "We will not comply," and apparently indicated that there was anti-immigrant issues. Delegate Pippi stood up and said, first of all, I have to say, I think the issue of the "we will not comply" was an Eastern Shore sheriff. But this doesn't apply, this applies to the incoming sheriff. And it wasn't as overwhelming as the typical vote was, but it was enough to kill a bill. So I was, again, another local bill.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I mean, personally, I am looking forward to the legislative district where it is much more Carroll County representing Carroll County. Carroll County is representing Carroll County, because nothing against the delegates in District 4, but, I mean, I'm not sure how much they actually
The piece was
engage
so small.
themselves.
Yeah,
Right.
They only had 2 precincts
Or,
last year.
I'm not sure how much some of the others did. I do know, like Senator Hester was a very strong advocate for Sykesville and for the American Legion and some of the capital projects. But, legislatively, like I said, that District 4 area, I'm not sure their value to influence anything within
Yeah,
our
nine was
county.
nine
So,
is much bigger.
Right.
Yeah, But now, so you get another district, you get 42C.
we get, right. Right.
The eastern part.
Yep. So, but we're starting to see that more, that local courtesy not being as kind of,
I was kind of shocked,
Yeah.
really.
Okay.
And the argument, particularly for the school board member,
yeah,
was to allow. Well, there's a scholarship associated with
Right.
it, right? To enable more students to share in that, but also experience, right? To allow kids more experience, more
Right.
opportunities.
right.
And I don't know what it was. It was a delegate from Prince George's, and I spoke briefly with Delegate Krebs about it. She said that it was the issue of term limits that he did not agree with.
I'll tell you, I'm so glad we have a responsibility and authority up here to fill potholes and find fiber and take care of the community with safety and security and not deal with politics. That's why it's about community. So that's my 2 cents. But any parting comments from Mike? I know the 3 of you will no longer engage with him in this role, as you've done in the last however many years. But,
Well, it's been a good ride, and I remember the day that you and I spent when I tried to influence you to take this job. And
Does he
you-
still like you?
And you kind of looked at me and went, "You want me to do what?"
Dude,
But
just
ultimately,
retire.
He'll never travel with you again.
yeah, I know. But that will be forever ingrained in my mind, Mike. And just when we were able to go to Annapolis, and we saw a little bit of that here at the end of this year, but back in the day when we could go down there, I knew that the right decision was made by my colleagues when I saw you walking the halls and people coming up and saying, "Mike Fowler, dude, I thought you retired. What are you doing?" And you proudly said, "I'm part of Carroll County now," and that resonated with me as well.
It was a great
So-
opportunity. I appreciate it. If I could go to any county, really, this will be the one. I think the people here are great. I think your staff, they're all committed. Everybody really works together. It reminds me of where I came from, and felt very comfortable coming into this space too, where everybody is really cooperative and really wants to do the right thing and do the right thing for the county and the constituents.
Well, I just want to thank you personally on behalf of everybody here, and I'm glad you're on board. And you've been tremendous in the role that you've taken on, and again, thank you so much. And my ultimate goal here, before I get out of here in December, is to try to get you a second chair in your office.
I was going to mention the office.
Sorry, to not
I
have
appreciate it.
not
That
have
chair is very lonely.
Because you either sit on his desk or sit on the radiator, and it's yeah. So
Depending on the
anyway,
weather, that can be comfortable.
Yeah.
I really have appreciated working with you all. It's been a great board to deal with. You guys are very open.
I will say that it seems like the more antagonistic the dominant party becomes towards Carroll County, the more critical it is for us to have our independence. But it is an election year, and there'll be a turnover of some of the members, and they'll be hopefully much more friendly towards us. There'll be a turnover on this membership as well. And I hope that you can come back in this capacity for the next board that sits up here, because you are a tremendous asset for this board, and you'll be a big help to them getting things going. So I hope you come back. Thank you very much for all you've done.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I would like to echo that. Thank you for everything, and especially since I've been on the MACO legislative committee the past 2 years, and I actually got to go down to Annapolis one time, so it was good.
Very unfortunate.
But I do
Yeah.
appreciate all the help that you've given me. I really do. And I was going to say something about your plush office, but I don't know. hopefully that will improve. But
Yeah.
seriously, thank you.
Thanks.
we spare no expense.
yeah.
No retirement in sight.
Well, I guess that's up to your successors. So
Yeah,
let's see.
well, keep that in mind. You've done a great job, so thank you.
And after Passover, Commissioner Wance and I will join you in the brown beverage.
Yep, that
I
was a
look forward
promise,
to
and
it.
we're going to make that happen.
So, okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mike.
That's chocolate milk, right?
Okay, so let's move on to public hearing,
Basically.
Police Accountability Board Resolution.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a public hearing, the purpose of which is to elicit public testimony regarding a resolution which would create the Carroll County Police Accountability Board and the Carroll County Administrative Charging Committee. Notice of this hearing was published in the Carroll County Times on April 7th and April 14th, and we also published it on our Carroll County website. I have not received any public comment to date. We did hear from the sheriff, but I have not received any public comment. And if I could give you a brief summary of what the resolution entails today.
Please, and are they coming up also?
Not for this.
They can come up later.
Okay.
Mr. Swam and I are going to go through
Okay. Yep.
a PowerPoint, which usually makes for a lot of unintentional humor, unfortunately, at my expense. So,
Not that you're aware of.
slide two, excuse me. What we're talking about today is the creation of two committees by the county commissioners. And the first one is going to be the Carroll County Police Accountability Board. And the purpose of that committee is to actually receive complaints of police misconduct from the public, review police disciplinary trends throughout the year, and I think most importantly, meet quarterly with local law enforcement officials to discuss ways that we could possibly improve policing in Carroll County. The second committee is called the Carroll County Administrating Charging Committee. They are the ones who will actually review police internal investigations regarding alleged officer misconduct. They're going to determine whether or not an administrative charge is appropriate in their opinion. If they think it's appropriate, they will schedule a public hearing and make a recommendation. I'll get into that a little more. Next slide. The law requires that the membership of these two boards be designed to reflect somewhat the racial, cultural, gender makeup of Carroll County. The law also prohibits any active law enforcement official from sitting on the Police Accountability Board or the Administrative Charging Committee. And anybody who's appointed holds their position until a new member is selected and qualified, regardless of their term. So if you're having trouble filling a term, that person is allowed to hold over. The next slide, the qualifications. To be a member of any of these committees, you have to be a Carroll County resident, and you cannot have a charge pending or have been convicted of a charge in federal or state court of a crime punishable by a period of exceeding 1 year in jail, or whether you are facing a crime which would impose a penalty of 1 year in jail. Okay? The first board we're going to discuss is this. Go ahead.
Hold on a
Hold on a
second.
minute. So, go back, okay. So you're saying, first of all, where did these guidelines come from?
Which ones?
Is
These qualifications?
the qualifications.
Those were basically, I drafted them based upon some of the other trends in other counties.
Okay, because I'm having a little bit of a challenge with the fact that you may have had a sentence of imprisonment, but it wasn't a year. In other words, I think anybody who serves on these boards should have zero negative background when it comes to.
Oh,
I mean, I
actually,
guess I liken it to the fact that, you know, Baltimore City just tried to hire somebody who has a gun charge against them, and I'm like, wait, what? So, it just, in my mind, these are such important boards that I'm not so sure that someone should be on there that has any background. Now, that might be discriminatory, I don't know, but it just, it throws up a flag in my mind.
Okay,
in my mind.
something
I
for
don't
me
know.
to look into and for the board
Maybe
to
that's just me.
to consider.
I don't know.
honestly, I was thinking the flip. I was thinking the 100% flip side, and which means that when they are released and able to become a citizen or in a position of being a citizen, giving them purpose like anything. They've done their, they've been in prison, they've done their appropriate time, and they, you know, I don't want to be discriminatory because you know, I work very closely with programs, you know, and recidivism, whatever that word is very low when you provide purpose and careers for individuals. So I'm actually on the
You're on the other side.
other
Okay,
complete
well,
other side, yeah, which
yeah.
was interesting. So
I have to agree with the point Commissioner Rothstein's making, because we see a lot of individuals that go through addiction, and they tend to be some of the best advocates to help people with recovery. So getting people back involved and having purpose is a wonderful thing for recovery. I'm curious as to what would happen if someone is on one of these boards and say they get a DUI charge or something. Do they have to step back? Are they suspended? And because you're innocent until proven guilty, what would be the procedure potentially if that happens? If someone's on the board and they get a charge, they gotta step back and abstain from the rest of the hearings until the case is over? I mean, that could be a sticking point.
Yeah, well, the way it's written, it says that would be a charge pending, so you would have to step
I
aside
have to step out.
until that.
Now, well, what would happen, say they get found innocent? Then do they get reappointed?
Yes,
Okay.
or pardoned,
All right.
also the way it's written.
I have a question on a term limit. So there, if you're appointed to this board, if no one else wants to step up and be on the board, you could be on this board forever? Either one of these boards?
There could be a holdover, yeah, until the position is filled.
Same way with the boards we have now.
Yeah, but I'm just,
Again, that's-
But there's no term limit set, so, well, my point is, we, say we put 5 people on the board, those 5 people could be on there. I mean, say someone else wants to step up and take position in 3 years or something, is there a time where that is, you know, is there like a 3-year term, or we look for some replacement
Yes.
after 3 years, something of that sort? So there is a term.
Yeah, you're getting ahead of me a little bit.
Okay, because
You're
I'm
just
just
trying-
thinking, you don't want the same people on for the next 10 or 15 years.
There are term limits. It's
Okay,
just, that's the
okay.
catch-all in case.
Right, just in case no one steps up. Okay, that's fine then, all right.
But I think
All right.
going back to the this slide with the qualifications, taking a deeper look at kind of the point counterpoint that we are making on this,
Okay.
I think is valid. And my whole piece, honestly, is to be less discriminatory. It doesn't take away the value and importance of this board, but people have made mistakes, and sometimes very bad mistakes, but they are put into a position afterwards that, you know, they can step up. So that's,
But on this board,
I wanna-
I understand.
This is a very important board,
It is.
especially for the police officers, and I don't want anybody on that board that would have any prejudice against a police officer here at this point. Somebody who has served time or whatever may subconsciously have some animosity toward police officers. I really worry about that. I think this should be someone who is a citizen in the area that doesn't have interaction here. They should be totally objective in this, and I agree with Commissioner Wance.
I'm just having trouble because, and Dick, you make a good point. The importance of this, I think, should lead the way here. And I don't know, did we hear from law enforcement on this? I mean, I maybe thoughts on that. I mean, I'm not sure how you can put somebody on a board that may have been in the system, and then they're creating, or they're coming up with decisions that it just seems a little. It seems a little wonky to me to put some. I mean, it's like I don't know.
But
I mean, I could be. It's just open for. I'm not trying to. Again, I'm not trying to be discriminatory here, but my gosh, there's so many people out there that have never been involved or had a problem, and wouldn't they be the best people to be on these boards when it comes to making some of these really challenging decisions? Just
You know,
a thought.
Another point to that, because I understand the concerns, is that each member should be a resident of Carroll County. Well, I moved into Carroll County after a year or two, and I'm coming from a completely different community. I'm now eligible to be on this board, but my experiences are from Jersey, Montgomery, wherever, and you know, it's a completely different, you know, view I have on this. So all it is saying you are a resident, not a resident for the last 10 years, 20. I mean, we can't make restrictions on everything,
Right. I know.
but
I think we should exclude Jersey, but.
yeah, we know how to deal with things.
That's
So
that's a valid point too. I think
you
there
know.
should be a time period, at least. I
don't
mean, you
know.
say it all the time. Who knows Carroll better than
Carroll
those of
County
us
is,
in Carroll?
yeah.
And again, not trying to be discriminatory here, but
Mhm.
if you just moved in here last year, how could you have an idea of even how law enforcement works in this county?
Right.
So maybe a 5-year or 10-year sort of.
Well, one comment to that, you're not gonna be like Pittman, you're not gonna get 24 applicants for these
Well,
jobs.
yeah,
So
I
the
don't-
more you
Unless
whittle it
pay
down.
them.
The other thing, of course, remember, these are appointed positions, so you have to, you know,
Right.
have some confidence in yourselves and your future boards that you will look, that they will
Right.
look at those kinds of things, all of those
Right.
kinds of
That's
things.
right. That's
true. That's a good point.
In assessing the person's qualifications. The other thing is, we worked with the municipalities and the ones specifically that have police departments, because these two boards will oversee
Right.
all of the police departments in the county. Not that we want to do that, but that's the way the state law is written. So, and they will be recommending to the Board of Commissioners 2 members for these boards. So that will also help.
I'm trying to get through this
know.
PowerPoint presentation and everybody jumps
I'm sorry.
7 slides ahead, I'm gonna be repeating.
All right.
Tell me the end of the
Your
story.
face is turning as red as your pink is your tie.
We'll stop.
But
I'll stop.
I'm gonna go back
making
to the beginning and for the benefit of the public, whose idea was this?
Yeah, not ours.
Yeah.
It was the General Assembly in 2021 enacted a comprehensive, what they called the Police Reform Bill. One of the components was they repealed the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, and they put their "You will comply" T-shirts on and pointed to the counties and said, you must follow this law and you must adopt a Police Accountability Board and a Administrative Charging Committee by July 1st. of next year, of this year, July 1st, 2022.
So we can't blame you?
You can blame me. Everybody else does.
Okay.
Specifically, jumping to the number 5, the Police Accountability Board, you're going to have 5 members, okay? You're going to pick 5 members. One of them is going to be the chairperson, and you're actually going to designate who the chairperson is going to be. So you want to pick a quality chairperson to run this board. The members are each going to serve 2 years and cannot be eligible for reappointment after 4 years. So they're going to be, you asked about term limits, this is the way it's written, is a 4-year term. And again, the way it's also written is if you're having trouble filling somebody after the expiration of the 4-year term for a couple months or, like, heaven forbid, a year, that person is allowed to hold over. Up to 2 members of this Police Accountability Board can be retired members of law enforcement who retired in good standing. Okay, they can't be current police officers, but they could be retired, who retired in good standing. And this is what Roberta referred to earlier, because the police departments of the municipalities are going to be affected by this. You were going to select 2 members of this 5-member board from a list forwarded to you by the Maryland Municipal League, and that's as a result of your recent meeting. They justifiably wanted some representation on this board, since their police departments have been caught up into this whole Police Accountability Board.
Tim, I do
legislation.
apologize. We just had a sidebar. When someone is released from imprisonment, are they considered at that point in good standing?
Are we back to?
Well,
sorry.
I'm just asking the question.
believe
If
they have to
somebody
complete their probation.
is left or is done with probation, done with whatever, are they then considered in good standing? If they are, that's one thing. If they're never in their entire life ever considered in good standing, that's something different. Because what we're doing is I want to make this less discriminatory.
Yes.
And
They were-
you're right, it is up to us to determine who is best suited from the pool of applicants that come in front of us. But the guidelines, to me, should be as least discriminatory as possible.
Maybe restrictive is the right word rather than discriminatory.
Okay, at least
No one's
restrictive,
suggesting,
and that's fine.
I really don't think
Okay,
you're
le-
suggesting
no, le- le-
discrimination.
At least restrictive.
Restricted.
And
I
that's
didn't want
fine.
the perception to be
No,
that. That's
yeah,
what
absolutely.
That's where I was
Yeah,
going.
at least
Yeah,
restrictive.
sorry.
So the question is, if you're saying here that police officer retired or somebody is now in good standing, going back to that last slide saying somebody that is no longer in prison and has done the things that they needed to do, are they now in good standing or not?
No, they're not. They've been convicted of a crime of punishable up to a year, and unless pardoned, they would be ineligible to sit on the accountability board or the charging committee. Ineligible.
Beyond that, would you consider them in good standing?
It's a
Yeah,
judgment call, I think.
They've done their time, I guess, is the way to look at it that way.
Right, so if you look
And
at
they've
it that way, then we should look at it this way as well.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Again, this is a public hearing.
You're having a rough
No,
time.
these are things
You're
for
getting
the
the
board to
hearing part,
consider.
aren't you?
This is the first time we've gone into this in
Yeah,
this
right,
detail,
yeah.
so questions
Yep,
are
okay.
certainly warranted.
Yep.
Slide 6.
All right.
Moving on.
Slide 6. What does this Police Accountability Board actually do? Again, these are the 5 members you've selected. They're going to hold quarterly meetings with the police chiefs of the local law enforcement agencies and the sheriff. They're going to discuss trends in law enforcement, and discipline, and they're going to try and come up with ways suggestions to improve policing. One other job is to appoint 2 civilian members to the charging committee, which I'll discuss later. In other words, the Police Accountability Board gets to select 2 members of the charging committee, and also civilian members of the trial boards, which we'll talk about later. The Police Accountability Board is the one who will actually get the complaints of police misconduct, and they will then submit an annual report to you on these and to the commissioners on disciplinary trends in the county, and again with their recommendations. Slide 7. Once this board gets a complaint of police misconduct, they're going to forward it to the local law enforcement agency that's impacted. If it's one of the sheriff's deputies, it goes to the sheriff. If it's the Sykesville Police Department, it would go to the Sykesville Police Chief. They would then do an internal affairs investigation and prepare a report to this Police Accountability Board and send it to the Police Accountability Board. Quickly, slide 8. Both of these boards, this board will get an annual appropriation for services. You might want to consider a stipend for them, much like the Planning Commission or the Zoning Board for their meetings. So, turning to the charging, any questions about the Police Accountability Board?
I hesitate to bring it, no, I'm good. I'm
Okay.
still stuck on what good standing means. I'm stuck
Okay.
on that, but you got that, so.
Slide 9, the next one is this administrative charging committee. So the Police Accountability Board got the police complaint, sent it to the police chief or the sheriff. The sheriff has a report of what this misconduct entailed or didn't entail. They're going to send it to this administrative charging committee. And the charging committee, as I said, is going to consist of one, the chairperson of the accountability board. In other words, your chairperson that you selected for the accountability board also will sit on this charging committee. And you're also going to be appointing 2 civilian members of this charging committee. And the actual Police Accountability Board will then submit 2 civilians by majority vote. So 5 members, 2 of them are civilians selected by you. One of them is the chairperson that you selected for the Accountability Board. And 2 are citizens, civilians that were selected by the Police Accountability Board that was appointed by you. Slide 10, quickly, the Administrative Charging Committee's duties are to adopt rules, number 1. Number 2 is to review the law enforcement agency's investigation of the alleged police misconduct. And then they make a determination as to whether the officer should be, in their opinion, charged or not administratively charged. Next slide. If they decide that administrative charges for this police misconduct are warranted, this committee will actually conduct a public hearing, or a hearing to recommend discipline. And here's where it gets difficult for all of us. They're supposed to conduct this hearing in accordance with the Model Uniform Disciplinary Matrix created by the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission and adopted by each local law enforcement agency. That hasn't been done yet, to my knowledge, and then Chuck Rapp is here to talk about that. So the state agency that is supposed to produce these has not produced these yet. So even though we're rushing to get this done by July 1st, they haven't produced that.
And is
So
there any indication that they're working on it?
I think you're going to have some comments,
Okay.
right, on that? You're going to hear some.
All right, I'm reading ahead, Chuck, sorry.
So they have the hearing for the officer. It's like a trial board, or not a trial board, like a zoning board hearing or something like that. There's evidence. The officer gets to produce their side of the story. They get to bring an attorney. And the charging committee then makes a decision, and they forward the opinion to the chief of the local law enforcement agency or the sheriff, saying, here's our decision and here's our recommended discipline, if any. And the chief of the law enforcement agency or the sheriff, we're up to 12 now, can take the recommended discipline of the charging committee, or they can increase it. They cannot reduce it. So if the charging committee says this person is guilty, you should fine him $150 or dock him 4 days' pay. The sheriff or the police chief can adopt that, increase it, but they cannot reduce it. And then the matter then goes back to the complainant. If the officer does not like or does not agree with the proposed discipline, they can ask for a police trial board. So that's another step in the process, the police trial board. And that's going to consist of one of your people is an appointed judge, a retired judge, or an active judge in the circuit court, district court, or administrative law court that's going to sit on this committee. It's going to be also a civilian who is not appointed by the Carroll County Police Accountability Board, and a police officer of equal rank to the accused officer appointed by the sheriff or the chief of police. That's not our big concern today. This is not our big concern today. But if there's a police trial board, we have to have somebody, I guess, on on call, I guess, at a retired judge or a retired district court, circuit court, or administrative law judge to get called in to sit on one of these charging committees. Now, there may not be many opportunities for that, but that's just something we will have to arrange for that. We'll have to select a retired judge to sit on one of these charging committees.
What is the limit to the discipline that could be handed out by this committee? I mean,
I
you can't,
can't-
if there, say it again?
There isn't any.
That's what
There's
they're
no
working
limit?
on.
No, there's no limit. If the officer's not happy with the recommendation, it goes to a trial board. That's what will happen.
Surprise, okay.
And before I forget it, I would assume that the Maryland State Police are a different breed. Even
This
This
go-
though-
yeah.
doesn't cover them.
This is
Even
not
even
covered.
though they are present in most of the counties, suppose the incident occurs in our county, our Police Accountability Board wouldn't have anything to do with that if it was in our county.
That's right. You are in charge of the sheriff's, not in charge. The board reviews the acts of the sheriff, deputies, or the local police officers in our local municipalities, not the state police.
Well, that's interesting.
And if there's a
Well, the Maryland
combination,
State Police and any agency that operates multi-jurisdictional has a state accountability board that the state has to set up, so it's not,
Okay.
not local.
That's a very good point, and that goes to Mount Airy. They're in kind of a fix with their police department since they have, it's one of those multi-jurisdictional places where you have part of in Frederick and part in Carroll. That would fall under the state guidelines,
So they're not even covered by this. or-
No, they would like to be. I mean, they
Yeah.
don't like the idea. I don't think they like the idea of being under the state, but that's
Okay.
up to them if they want to
Okay.
get some relief from that. Back to slide 13, we're back to the charging committee. They're going to elect a chairperson who's going to serve no more than 2 consecutive terms. Again, the term limits are 4 years, and each individual serving on this committee has got to receive some training on these procedures from the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission. And I don't know that they're ready to receive that at this point either, so. I think that's enough for the slideshow. Does the board have any questions?
You mean any more?
So just to jumping to the end, thank you for the slideshow, that's done. So your appointments that you need to think about now are 5 for this Police Accountability Board, including the chair. So you get to appoint all 5 members of them. 2 of them can be retired cops, and 2 of them will be from a list selected by the Maryland Municipal League for your consideration. So they're going to send you 5 names, you pick 2 of those. So there's your board number 1. Board number 2 is the charging committee. You need to think about appointing 2 civilians to that committee. So the other members will be your chairperson that was on the Police Accountability Board and 2 civilians that this Police Accountability Board is going to select. And then the trial board, as I said, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that today, but in the wings, there's going to have to be some retired or sitting judge that's willing to take that on for periodic disciplinary trial boards. And again, we haven't had many of them in the sheriff's office, at least. I don't imagine there's many in our local jurisdictions, but that's something we're required to have by the state.
Well, good thing we have you to keep us straight. There's a lot of moving parts here. It can be quite confusing at times. But
It is.
For me, I can conceptualize it as this in legal terms. Like, the first board would be a detective in the police department investigating, collecting the evidence. The second board would be more or less the state's attorney and a grand jury, so to speak, to determine whether it can move forward with any other additional action. And then finally, court would be the third step to the retired judge.
Well, the first step, again, that the internal investigation is still done by the local police agency. So if the sheriff's deputy is accused of misconduct, it's the sheriff's office that's going to do the internal investigation. If the Sykesville police officer is accused of misconduct, they would do the internal investigation. But they would send the results to the charging committee, as you
Right.
said.
Does the charging committee have the authority to ask for a different Sykes, your example you just gave, say it was Sykesville Police Department, the charge was against, they did their investigation. came back to them, they looked at it and said, you know, I'm not happy with this investigation. Well, I would like the sheriff's department to investigate this. Do they have the authority to do that?
No, but they can request additional information from the investigating agencies. They can subpoena people. They can
Okay, so
do
they could
somewhat of a
investigate
little
it
bit of their own.
more,
If
okay.
they're not happy with what they get, they can dig in a little further.
Right, because just from watching TV and all, you know, one of the complaints is that, oh, they're investigating themselves. What do you expect? I don't want to hear that. So there's a mechanism in place. That's
Yes.
okay.
Any other questions of the board? Any public comment today?
Oh, come on.
That's all right.
The sheriff has been very adamant that he's not taking a position on this, you know, and these guys are here for informational purposes only, if you had any questions. So did I get everything right? I have a question for you.
I think it was, yes. As best as we know it.
Do you know if this matrix is forthcoming anytime soon, or?
So the.
Hey, Chuck, hit the mic. Hit the mic, Chuck.
Thank you.
Or come up to the front or whatever.
The commission, and I spoke to them this morning, they've been working on this at least heavily for the past couple of months. The disciplinary matrix is still not finalized because the matrix, as by the law, would have to be adopted by all the agencies in Maryland. The 176 agencies would adopt it.
That's
So-
not going to happen by July 1st, is it?
They anticipate that it will be done.
Okay.
They will have a matrix in place by July 1st.
Okay.
The regulations regarding the accountability board and the charging committees is close to finalization. They told me that they intend to introduce that for COMAR next week, and they have an emergency COMAR process that will allow them to adopt the regulations for 180 days while it goes through the regular COMAR process with public comment and so forth. So they expect to have those out next week. The training for the committees, the accountability board doesn't require any training, but the charging committee does require training for the civilian members, as well as the trial board civilian members require training. That training has not been finalized yet, and at this time, they have no instructors that will be able to disseminate that training throughout Maryland. They're working on that. They anticipate having that by July 1st, but as we sit today, they don't have that prepared.
I wonder if they could do it just like they do the open meetings training, have just a,
Video.
You go onto a website and you sit through a class. I don't think it would be adequate, but it's something.
They can. I think one of the issues that the commission has been discussing is the kind of regional approach. For instance, the training in Baltimore City might be, it's all the same training with the same standards, but the questions that arise from people in Baltimore City may be different than the questions that arise from civilians in Washington County. So they prefer to have people that are familiar with that region to address questions from folks that live in those individual jurisdictions.
I just shake my head because I shook my head when they started talking about this down in that quaint little village a year and a half ago. There's so many unanswered questions, and I don't care what anybody says. They're rapidly trying to put this together, and they're going to do it half-assed. You know that as well as I do. I'm just very concerned about this whole process. We're trying to rapidly put something together here that could ultimately mean a huge, could affect the individual, could affect the law enforcement officer. And this is just unacceptable, I think, and which is why I was against this in the first place. But, I know we have to do it. What happens if the law enforcement officer decides to get an attorney? How does that come into the mix? Does the attorney have the ability to question the charging board or the accountability board, or has that been addressed?
The attorney can represent
Yes.
the officer, but they can't, to my knowledge, they won't be able to address the charging board. That would be at the trial board. And just because, I just throw this out, because the representatives in Carroll County, the legal representatives through the FOP in Carroll County represent other jurisdictions. Their initial take with, after July 1st, is that regardless of what you're charged with or what the discipline is, you request a trial board. That's the attorneys. I'm not saying that
Right,
our people
okay.
could make a different decision, but that's the attorney's recommendation.
But the attorney can represent the officer at the charging committee
Yes.
under the law.
Okay.
You know, this just looks like the state trying to take over the sheriff's job. And, I'm sorry, yeah, I agree with Commissioner Wentz.
And the local police chief.
And the local
Right.
police chiefs, yeah, this is,
Right.
well, I guess we have to appoint a board, we don't have much choice.
Right, that's the thing, we have to do this.
Yeah.
No one, we didn't come up and say, you know, we
I
should
know,
put
I
these
know.
boards, we have to do this. And what makes it worse, we have to do this by July 1st, when other things aren't even in place yet. So it makes it extremely difficult. We don't have a choice, but it's just, I'm gonna say it doesn't make sense to me, but
What
difference does
happens
that
if,
make?
what happens if Carroll County doesn't have their board in place by July the 1st? I think I know the answer. There is no answer.
What-
So, you know, we're almost into May.
Right.
It'll be here the next time you blink. So we've got 2 months to get all these names, pick all these people, and we're rapidly putting the group together that, you know, who's doing background? Are we gonna do background checks on the folks that serve on these boards? Who's doing that?
That's a good point.
Typically, background checks are either done by the state fire marshal when it comes to that part of it, or we rely on you guys to do background checks. I know when I got when I got another permit, you all did my background check. So there's that. So who's doing that?
Did you
Which
pass?
means that you're doing a background check on somebody that could be doing a background check on you.
Well, at the moment, there's no requirement for that as a qualification.
Okay, but you see, there's so many things here. I mean, what do we do now? We've got unanswered questions here, but yet we have to start advertising for this board.
Yeah, what are our next steps? Let's just assume we close the public hearing, keep it over 10 days, for today. Okay, after that, what's our next step? Do we advertise as soon as those 10 days are up, or what?
After the 10 days, I would come back to you and ask if you want to adopt this resolution or not. And you would immediately, if yes, we should start advertising for the members.
Right at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think it'd have to be pretty quick.
You know, if this is adopted by July 1st, and we're actively trying to fill the positions, I think we'll be in good shape.
Okay. I mean, that helps a little bit.
Yeah.
If they see we're in the process, who's gonna say, you know, I don't.
I
That's
say
why-
that,
That's why I'm not married to July the 1st, so necessarily.
I say that legislative initiatives are supposed to solve an existing problem. I didn't know we had an existing problem with this to solve. And I also question the constitutionality of this long-term, that if and when an officer is entered into the system with a good attorney, I think he could even challenge the constitutionality of this and potentially get it thrown out. I mean, I think we're just going down a wrong path on this, but as my
Well,
colleague said, we're stuck with
Yeah,
it.
that's
And
a
it's very
great,
frustrating. And I really feel for the legal community out there. You're already challenged as is with getting recruits to come on board. And now they're throwing this on top of you and all of us to make it even harder. And what are we truly trying to solve? Do we have a problem here? At least in this guy, I don't think we do. It's just frustrating, and you guys and ladies out there in law enforcement, you have our empathy on this, but I think our hands are tied and we just have to move forward as best we can.
It could take years to pass this.
yeah, okay. So I guess next steps now, I mean, you heard our concerns. I'd like to revisit that little debate that we had on what, you know, 1 year imprisonment or not means. I have a little bit of a problem with that. I just, the perception there to me seems off. if you're putting a board together that ultimately is looking at law enforcement, but yet you allow folks that perhaps may have had a problem with law enforcement, they're allowed to be on the board? Wait, what? I don't know. I've got a problem with that. So if we could relook at that, the rest of this is what it is, and I guess we'll just have to start rolling. But I am a little bit, I'm a little challenged by that, but yet I do see your point as well, Ed. I don't know if there's a common ground here somewhere. I'm sort of on the fence.
Well, I think the common ground is us, because as it goes through the interview process, it'll be weeded out. So we make as least qualifiers as possible. As it comes to us, we then, create the quality board.
Right.
And if somebody, is, fictitiously 62 years old and was in prison when they were 23 because they did some boneheaded thing somewhere, somehow in Illinois, and they did a year and a half, and now they've been married for 25 years, have raised 2 wonderful kids, and they're working somewhere, well, they should have the ability and qualities to come in front of us and say, we want to be on this board. It's then up to us to say, you are or not qualified. Now, I'm not talking about someone, that expectations, they just get out of the jail, and a year and a half later, through pardon, they are now getting, working, at a challenging situation and trying to get themselves, back together. But there's a lot of our community that have walked the walk of challenging places, and I don't want to, again, not the word discriminate, but push them to the side.
But-
So that's in my mindset where I'm coming from.
And that's fine,
So-
but there's a huge percentage of people out there that have walked the walk and have
Yeah.
never been in any kind of trouble at all.
Right.
So
Right, so
let's
let's
not
put
forget
them in, no, but put them all in the same pool, and as it's decided, we have the ability to provide the qualifying decisions on whether he or she belongs on the board or not. That's all. I just, that's my 2 cents at this point. I mean, we'll go further down this road, but.
And the debate is extremely healthy that we have this in front of the public, so thank you.
Okay.
Mr. President, I think the public hearing could be brought to a close.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that we close the public hearing, leave the record open for a total of 10 days to allow any additional public input.
So I hear a second.
Second.
Okay.
Apprehensively.
I mean, okay, I got a motion, I got a second. It was a very good discussion, gentlemen. Really appreciate your time being here. Any other discussion?
No.
Very well done, Tim. All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Boucher, you said aye?
Yes, sir.
Good, okay. Fantastic, let's move on to another public hearing. Proposed noise ordinance revision replacement. What do you have to say, there, Mr. Attorney?
First, I want to say the only reason you said well done is because I knocked 7 slides off at the very end.
Very well done.
Wait, there were 7 more?
Actually, was there an expectation I was listening to you? No, I'm kidding.
This will not be as arduous.
Oh, who knows?
Oh.
Mr. President, this is another public hearing, and thankfully, there is no PowerPoint. Thank you. This is regarding the noise ordinance. We have a current noise ordinance that you're considering whether to repeal and replace with a new noise ordinance. And I would note that there was a notice of the public hearing published in the Carroll County Times on April 7th and April 14th, and it was also advertised on our Carroll County website. The purpose of today is to hear public comment on this proposed repeal and replacement of the Carroll County noise ordinance. As you know, the current law requires the use of calibrated, updated decibel reading meters, which has been problematic for our law enforcement community. The new ordinance would simply prohibit unreasonable unreasonably loud noises in areas which unreasonably disturb, endanger, or injure the health, safety, and welfare of reasonable persons of ordinary sensitivity. It would prohibit two things. Number one, unreasonably loud noise at any time that can be heard in a residential area. And number two, between the hours of 10 and 7, it would prohibit unreasonably loud noise from music, machines, tools, or other amplified devices. Again, it replaces the use of decibel meters by the unreasonably loud noise standard, which is basically a case-by-case consideration, and the use of common sense. There are exceptions in the new ordinance for municipal and county uses, garbage trucks, schools, farming, and that sort of thing. Any questions of the board from my summary?
No, I do have just a question on the, I don't know if it's a point of order or whatever, but I never reached out to see if anybody was on a call. Should I have done that, or?
Well, we have some comments.
But I
You're
mean,
talking about the
but
last
no,
one.
I'm talking about the last. Chris,
Oh,
is there
oh,
anybody
yes.
on?
No, sir, we had no callers.
Okay,
I would have
thank you.
spoke up.
Yep, thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. We had no callers from the last one, and we have no callers at this point. So, okay, thanks.
Any questions regarding the summary?
I just want to say, we have someone here to speak.
Yes.
All right.
No questions yet.
Yeah.
No questions yet, okay. We do have a public comment.
Yep,
If-
please.
Can we hear from Greta Boylston, please?
Thank you.
And she has submitted a handout to you. That was where that came from.
Yep.
Okay.
We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. I wrote a little something up. My name is Greta Boylston, and I had the opportunity to serve on the All-Terrain Vehicle Review Committee. The committee has been charged with reviewing all the comments received by the county commissioners on a draft noise ordinance and zoning amendment. The meetings commenced on January 3rd of 2005, and individuals representing both sides of the ATV issue were appointed. In addition, county staff were appointed to assist the committee, which included the county attorney and 2 mediators from the Family and Community Mediation Center of Carroll County to oversee the meetings. The most important compromise that was made between both parties in the noise ordinance was the non-commercial off-road vehicle use setback requirements. With this in place, we had met the needs of both groups, which has stood the test of time. The current generation of ATV riders are aware of these regulations, as well as the companies that sell the vehicles. It is my understanding that the real problem with the current noise ordinance is the very high cost of maintaining the ANSI sound level meters. It was never the intention of the committee to require sound equipment that would be unrealistic to maintain. It would be my advice to rework the current noise ordinance, not delete in its entirety, but update and add what may be missing. Keep intact the non-commercial off-road vehicle use setback requirements. The noise ordinance you have today was never really wordy. It was just simply effective. Okay? Thank you for the time.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Boylston, can you explain the handout you submitted to the board?
Oh, of course. In the original ordinance, which is now still standing, the crux of the matter was the
Eh,
non-commercial.
Excuse me, ma'am, could you get closer to
Oh,
the
of
mic? I'm hard
course,
of hearing. Thank you.
Of course, me too. The non-commercial off-road vehicle use setback requirements. There were two parts to that requirement. It says, except as provided in paragraph 2. A person may not operate or permit to operate an off-road internal combustion engine powered recreational vehicle, including but not limited to a dirt bike, an all-terrain vehicle, a go-kart, a snowmobile, or a similar vehicle on private property closer than 300 feet to a neighboring residence or associated curtilage without the written permission of the affected resident, unless it can be demonstrated to the enforcement official that the vehicle can be operated within the noise limits specified in Table 146-1. I would like to tell you from my experience, 300 feet back from a property line is probably the absolute minimum. And you're still going to have a good bit of noise. But at least it's not somebody directly coming by
Right.
on top of you and, yeah. In section 2 of this section is not intended to restrict the use of agricultural vehicles. And I might add, you know, being a farmer and in farming, most of this activity is happening on Carroll County farmland, okay? The ATV use. The section is not intended to restrict the use of agricultural vehicles, off-road vehicles used for law enforcement, fire, emergency, military, or other government purposes, and vehicles used for routine access of a property as determined by the zoning administrator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other additional comments?
Okay.
There's nobody on the line either.
No, Chris, there is nobody on, right?
No callers.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to see one thing in this ordinance. I think it's page 2, number 5. It says use, operation, device, and farming activities. I would like to have the, somewhere in there, the Carroll County right to farm ordinance supersedes this document. Put in something like that. And that would be specify everything there as far as noise and to anybody out there.
Yeah, I think that covers the ag part of it
That's a
then,
good
too.
point.
And I tend to agree with this 300 feet setback. While that's not a lot, I do think it provides that level of buffer, if you will, that would help. I mean, I get a ton of these up in my neck of the woods. Certainly we could reword this because it wouldn't refer back to the table that it did because we're getting rid of the decibel levels, but I do think we should probably keep the 300 foot in there. Opinions on that? I mean, you're our noise expert. You're the noisiest. Well, you might not be the noisiest over there, but you're the shortest.
Unless it's a cannon, then you
Okay.
get more than 300 feet.
What do you have to say?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I think this ordinance is sound, the way it's written right now. The definition of unreasonable is probably the highlight of the entire article, because that gives us the responsibility to take criminal or necessary enforcement in the future if we have to. I agree with Commissioner Wance on the 300-foot setback. I think as a compromise we can all agree with. And it does give boundaries to people as well and awareness. Commissioner Weaver, I think you brought up a good point about the ag. And it gives individuals the responsibility to do things or farm on their lands as they intend, using the equipment that's necessary to accomplish those goals. And like, I'm gonna echo, the most important description in here is unreasonable, because that gives us the teeth criminally to pursue an investigation, like the gentleman in Roop Road that was firing the cannons off. What he was doing was unreasonable, and was harassing his neighbors as well. And that gave us the ability to charge him criminally.
And I'm very grateful for the investigation, how that turned out. That was very difficult, but you guys handled it very well. And the 300 feet is good, and I think seasons also affect that with foliage, whether it's an open field or there's vegetation and the leaves come off. So having it out that far will be good, because when the seasons do change, it'd be good to have that distance.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, the gist of this is to cut down the nuisance in the communities, especially with ATVs. And when they're in the tree lines on paths right behind yards, that's, at least in my area, I get a lot of those challenging calls.
And historically, like I've said in past hearings, we're great about going in and establishing relationships
and de-escalating
and
the
de-escalating the
situation.
situation.
Absolutely. I mean, that is, you know, to me, your primary focus is to de-escalate an issue.
That's
And
correct.
this gives a little bit more teeth into the ability to, one, do that, but then say, hey, you know, if we need to put teeth into it, this is where we can go. So,
Yes, sir.
okay.
It's good seeing it codified too, because I see there's incidents where, say, a grandparent buys their grandchildren an ATV and they run around their backyard. They're clueless, have no understanding what the ordinances are, and they have a neighbor right up against that. Next thing you know, little kids are riding around their dirt bikes and ATVs, and then they're in violation. And they have a lot of contention in neighborhoods over that.
A lot of this is about public awareness as well, and making the consumer or the civilian public aware of what the noise ordinance is.
Right.
And many times this comes down to communication, because they're not aware that they could be
Right.
disturbing someone else's peace.
Just one question. You have residential area in here. Is that just because of houses? Is you causing a residential area? Is this residential zoning? Or is it-
We use residential uses more such, in other words, the ag zone, conservation zone, that they are not, quote, residential zones, but they have a lot of residential uses in there.
If it's
so-
if it's houses there?
If it's houses, yes.
Okay, that's what
Okay.
I first, okay.
So then the other part of that section that was in the previous one pertained to identifying those things that it's not intended to restrict. And I think that part of it is okay as well. Although if you're gonna do the right to farm part of it, maybe that covers it, but certainly making sure that law enforcement and all public safety is covered in military and other governmental purposes. I think we could probably stop there. I don't know if we want to get the zoning administrator involved in vehicles for him or her, but I think maybe to put part of that in there as well and cross out that zoning part of it ought to be included as well. So that would cover the public safety part of it, because we've been putting out a lot of woods fires lately in the county, and we're using ATVs to do it because we can't get to some of these areas.
Well, I don't imagine that the law enforcement would
You're
consider
good.
that an unreasonable
No.
use, so.
I don't think it's necessary.
You don't?
No, sir. I don't
Okay.
think, personally, I think you're gonna have a hard time for civilians, if you're putting a fire out in someone's backyard, that they're gonna complain about emergency equipment driving,
Right.
Okay.
causing noise.
Right.
Okay. I'm good then if we just do that first section.
It's that common sense piece.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What? What'd you say?
It's true.
Commissioner Wance, what were you proposing?
That we put in, into the new ordinance, we include that 300-foot
Okay.
setback.
The ATV piece
With
that
the,
was
with the, that
discussed.
section 1,
Yeah.
but eliminating the last sentence that refers you back to a table, because we're
Right.
getting rid of the decibel table. And then let it go at that, and I'm good with the rest of that. I don't want to get too,
Down in the weeds.
I don't want to get too ornery here with this thing, you know, so,
Fair enough.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'll move that we close the public portion of the hearing and leave the record open for a total of 10 days to receive any additional public input. And I guess when you come back to us week after next or whatever, the right to farm and the ATV will be in there. Okay.
I will second your motion.
Okay, I got a motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay,
I can't believe I voted for a noise ordinance.
what'd you say?
Yeah, all the noise you've been giving me, Weaver, about this for the last year.
Okay.
Yeah, scary.
Let's move on to subscription for the Cortico Health and Wellness app.
This will be less contentious.
We hope.
Ladies?
Commissioners, we are here this morning to seek your approval let's see, let me start over again. We were here last year before the board, and you approved to pay Cortico Incorporated to provide a customized mobile health and wellness app for this law enforcement agency. We are now requesting your approval to review the annual subscription cost of $30,000. And that subscription fee covers the licensing, maintenance, and ongoing updates, and unlimited use by Carroll County Sheriff's Office personnel. This is is covered by an awarded grant, and it's approved by the Budget Office. No additional funds will be necessary, and Vicki can answer any questions about the subscription itself.
Well, we're just renewing what we did last year, correct?
Correct.
So with that, I'll make the motion, the Board of Commissioners approve the annual subscription of the $30,000 to Cortico Incorporated to maintain the health and wellness of law enforcement app for the Sheriff's Office.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any further discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank
That
you.
means you'll walk over for nothing, but, I mean, you already did.
absolutely not.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a
she didn't
good-
walk over for nothing. It's always good to get
That was a
nice
good sales
fresh
job.
air and exercise and blah, blah,
You
blah.
could use your app on the way back.
Yes, I can.
Close the
you.
deal
Thank
quick.
you.
Thank you.
Now let's talk about purchasing software licenses and subscriptions for the State's Attorney's Office.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Okay, good morning. Hey,
Again, are here to seek your approval to purchase software and associated hardware from PenLink at a cost of $29,999.07. This software will assist the State's Attorney's Office and Carroll County Drug Firearms Trafficking Task Force with undercover and surveillance investigation. A notice of intent to sole source was advertised after receiving PenLink's quote. No capability statements were received. This cost covers but is not limited to the initial training, software, install, licensing, maintenance, and support. This amount is adopted in the FY22 budget, and no additional funds should be needed. And I will turn it over, and you can answer any questions they might have about this software.
it was sole source to PenLink. Is PenLink being used in other jurisdictions?
Yes, it's the Maryland State Police and other surrounding jurisdictions use it, and one of the reasons why we thought that was the best one, it was recommended to us by EMSN Partners, is because when we have a joint investigation, we'd be able to share and it'd be integrated where
Exactly.
we'd be able to share data and synthesize data, and it wouldn't have to go through any conversion process or anything.
Is PenLink also being used by federal?
I don't know about the federal partners.
Okay.
I know that from the state partners we work with, Maryland State Police and other
It
allied
is.
agencies, it is used
Yeah.
by them.
Okay, and that's a very important piece. So when we look at sole sourcing a capability, that there is very specific reason why we're sole sourcing it to get the most out of it and the best benefit. So that's what PenLink is providing.
Yes.
In your perspective.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Quinn, can you tell the public in basic layman terms how this will positively impact your job?
Yes, so for example, we prosecute cases, drug cases, gun cases, and sometimes distributions that relate to overdoses. So for example, if the police respond to an overdose scene and they find out that the overdose victim bought drugs from a particular drug dealer who uses a phone number, the police will be able to take that phone number, use a system like PenLink, and try to figure out what other cases is this suspect involved with, what other groups is this person involved with, to try to go to the source of the dealer of drugs to try to apprehend them or shut it down, or if it's a public health thing, if they're able to stop that person from dealing to others to cause overdoses. So this hopefully, because you can imagine these types of things have mounds and mounds of data This will not only help collect data, but also analyze it and organize it so they can help their investigation to lead them to the right suspect and make sure we can protect the public.
So it's a technology investigative tool.
Yes.
It's a different world than probably when you started in the office
Absolutely,
years ago.
absolutely. Cell phones were flip phones when I started.
So it conducts the link analysis, what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay. It's a world where I came from. I'll move the Board of Commissioners award the purchase of software and associated hardware from PenLink at a cost of $29,999.07.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion in a couple seconds.
For the extra 93 cents, could we get additional software?
I think
Wouldn't be
this.
able to sole source it.
Yeah. I have no idea. I'm just happy that we're able to get this, Commissioner.
Okay, any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners.
sir.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Okay. Let's move on to 20 Town Annexation number 48, the Sewell property.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Hannah Weber with the Department of Planning. With me is Price Wagner for reinforcements, I guess. And with us today is, we have the City of Tawnytown, Jim Wheatpret and Daryl Hale, to answer any questions that you guys have. So getting started, as I said, we are here for the Tawnytown annexation number 48 of the Sewell property. Starting out, the annexation area is approximately 126 acres. Orienting ourselves, we have Maryland 140 to the south of the annexation area, and then we have Harney Road, which splits the annexation north and south, splitting it between the west annexation and the east annexation. The west annexation is approximately 115 acres, and it encompasses this large parcel. And then the east annexation on the east side of Harney Road is the smaller parcel, which is approximately 10 acres. Here is a different plat that was submitted with the annexation packet. Again, the annexation area, if you can see the light blue highlight, the west annexation and then the east annexation. We have the municipality in the blue color, and then we have the county, which is in the red. And then again, we have Maryland 140 to the south, and then Harney Road splitting the annexation. Taking a look at the parcel layout in relation to Tawnytown, it is in the northwest quadrant, as you can see in this map. We have the corporate limits in the red hatching, we have the annexation area in the blue, and then we have the growth area boundary in the gold and black outline. Here's an aerial view of the annexation area. Again, it's in blue. As you can see, the west side of the annexation, the larger 115-acre parcel, is improved. There's a couple dwellings on the larger parcel and then the smaller parcel that's included. And then the east side of the annexation is completely unimproved. Again, the growth area boundary in black and gold. I will note the reason of its curvature, I believe, is the upper Monocacy stream. So you can see there is some part of the annexation area that's not completely in the growth area boundary, but the city is aware of this boundary issue, but it's not that big of an issue. And then again, the corporate limits in red. Moving on to zoning. Under the county, the entire annexation area, so the entire 126 acres, is zoned ag. The petitioners of the annexation, which is the city of Tawnytown, are requesting the annexation area go into R10,000. So under the county, it's approximately 1 dwelling unit per 20 acres under the ag zone. And then going into an R10,000 zoning, we're going to a 4.3 dwelling unit per 1 acre. So considering it's more 50% more dense going into the city of Tawnytown, a zoning waiver is required per Maryland State Code, and it has been requested. Moving on to the designated land use, I'm going to split it up between the west and east annexations. The west annexation, we have a land use of conservation, which is approximately 39 acres. And then we have a medium density residential in the yellow, which is approximately 77 acres. As I said, the requested zoning is R10,000. So given the designated land uses of conservation and the medium density residential, the requested zoning is not consistent with the designations given in their comprehensive plan. Going to the east annexation, the land use designation is the suburban residential, and this part, the 10 acres, is consistent with their comprehensive plan. Moving on to water and sewer, for both water and sewer, the property is in the long-range service categories for both water and sewer. The city is aware that there is some capacity issues for water and sewer. Given the numbers taken from the Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan, they are currently at 88% capacity for water and 83% capacity for sewer. Maryland Department of the Environment prefers all systems be less than 80% for both water and sewer. So going back to the service categories, since the annexation area is in long range, the demand of the annexation area is not taken into account of these capacity numbers, given that it's in the long range service categories. So some agency comments. We have not received any comments yet from Maryland Department of Planning as of this morning. Land and Resource Management responded that they are concerned regarding water capacity and allocation. And then we received comments from Department of Public Works and the Bureau of Engineering, and they're requiring Harney Road from Maryland 140 to the northern part of the annexation area be included in the annexation. So Harney Road would be maintained and owned by the city of Tawnytown. And to put that into context, the Department of Public Works and Engineering is requiring that from this intersection up to the northern part of the annexation area be included in the annexation, so the road would be maintained and owned by Tawnytown. This poses a problem with the annexation because annexing this road would create an illegal enclave per Maryland State Code, and this happens because this county land in the middle would be completely surrounded by municipal land. So you wouldn't have access via this road anymore because it would then be in the town.
What do you mean you wouldn't have access? We can still use the road.
Yeah, you still have access, but you can't have a piece of land that's completely surrounded by a municipality.
It's an island.
Okay.
So what's in that land?
Right now it is being it's farmed. I know there's some commercial properties.
And there's no interest in Tawnytown to...
I'm not sure if Tawnytown wants to speak to that.
Well, we're going
yeah.
to talk to them
Yeah.
in a minute anyway. So let's
Yeah,
finish up.
I'm not sure. This annexation packet I received only included the larger 126 acres. So it's our recommendation that we are not supporting this annexation and the requested zoning waiver. Recapping, the proposed zoning is inconsistent with their comprehensive plan. The water and sewer capacity is a concern, especially under the R10,000 zoning that they're requesting. And then annexing Harney Road would create the illegal enclave per Maryland code. We met with the Planning and Zoning Commission on Tuesday, as Commissioner Wance knows. We had a lengthy discussion, and they said they wanted to give it a favorable recommendation to you all. So today we are just here for an informational briefing. We are coming back next Thursday, the 28th, for a decision on the zoning waiver, and that'll be just in time for the city's public hearing on May 4th. So that does it for my presentation. I can go back if you have any questions on slides.
No, I do think talking to the gentleman is a good idea. Having us making a decision a week prior to the town's public hearing is very short notice. I mean, it kind of pigeonholes a lot of discussions. I mean, when we're...
Are the landowners pushing this to go
I know
through?
that they are in favor of the annexation.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if, yeah.
They're
Clark
requesting.
Schaefer is representing
They're
the
requesting.
property owner.
Yes,
They're requesting annexation.
correct.
the city of Tawnytown is the petitioners.
Right.
So they're the one that submitted the application for annexation, but the property owners are on board with it.
So if, I think we get some conversation from the town and then the property owner, that can help kind of give us a better view of what's going on. If that's okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we can do that. Put your hand down, Clark. I love yawning at attorneys. I think it's so fun.
It is so much fun.
It's entertaining.
It is.
Anyway, you're right. There was lengthy discussion at planning and zoning. Most of it centered around some of these concerns as well. That there was some maybe cart before the horse type of thinking here. This enclave thing keeps coming up, which I don't think it's an enclave, but that's here and there. But ultimately, after all of those discussions, and well, water and sewer, because we're concerned about that, but I think we're going to hear from Tawnytown on that one. And for the record, I met with the city of Tawnytown as well. I met with Jim and the mayor, and I've gotten hit from all sides on this one. But ultimately, I think what this comes down to is everyone identifies that this is not going to happen next week. This is long range, and the thinking is if we don't begin this process now, that it's going to put it off, and it could put it off for as much as 5 years, and that would affect some of the conversations that the landowners have had with potential business or the builder up there, because that's going to sort of take it off the table altogether. So we want to try to get the process rolling along here. Are there some challenges here? Absolutely. I believe that there are. And I do know about that other piece of property that was asked about, but I'm going to be very mindful of not talking about that because it belongs to someone that I'm doing business with. So I'm going to let that alone at this point. But the recommendation from you folks was based on the parameters surrounding the definitions of what
Correct.
you feel is there. I will also say that I believe that the word required by DPW is not correct. DPW can't require any of that to occur. They can strongly recommend, but I don't think DPW can require us to take a road. That's sort of the discussion that I've had with some folks because I followed up on that. So
Take which road?
Harney Road.
It is our road, isn't it?
No.
For the Tawnytown to take.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're
Our
saying.
DPW says that it would be required for the city of Tawnytown to take it. I don't believe that.
Will the city of Tawnytown take it?
What do you think, Daryl? You want another road?
So,
But we'll hear from you
snowplowing.
guys, but I think we do need to hear.
yeah, but the discussion was if Tawnytown took that road, they cannot take that road by state regulations because it would create that island effect of county property.
Correct.
So that's what you said the second.
But that's if they take the whole road. Or if they take the road from the end of the property in blue to the, you know what I mean, just that one section of road. They could
No,
take that part.
That piece would then create
No, the piece,
This middle piece would still be
An island.
an island.
But I think there was a road proposed, and I think we need to hear from another party here that may have had his hand up. A road proposed that would take the enclave discussion off the table.
Okay, but I think
So,
what I'd like to, listen to first is Tawnytown's kind of thoughts about moving this forward and how it fits in with their vision of Tawnytown. I mean, and its growth. That's to me like the real important part of this. Is this within Tawnytown's, whether we call it master plan, within the vision and not just piecemealing opportunities of land, because this is a significant piece of land that, you know, can be used for other things. But if Tony Town wants to step up to the plate,
Why don't we switch seats here?
Yeah.
Easier.
well,
You
yeah, the
switch.
two of you go away. Thank you so much. That was a very good
Don't
briefing.
go too far away.
Yeah, really. Okay, gentlemen.
Hello, Commissioners.
Hey.
So where do I start? Well, I will say, with regard to capacity, we certainly share concerns there. We are working on additional recharge acreage to allow us to approach MDE for increasing appropriation permits on the water side for our wells. We believe we have capacity within our existing wells to serve this development as well as more, but we are limited by recharge acreage because of MDE's owned and controlled policy. So we need to acquire recharge easements on property within our aquifer to be able to pump more out of our existing wells. So we are working on that side currently. On the sewer side, we have no expectation that MDE is going to increase our permit at our treatment plant. However, our plant capacity is 1.1 million gallons per day, and our dry weather flows are roughly 400,000. So we're losing over half of our capacity to inflow and infiltration. So when we have a dry year and we do our 3-year average it was mentioned for the 80% capacity on water and sewer, we look at that as a 3-year average. So if we have a couple dry years, it looks like we have capacity. If we have wet years, we don't. So with our inflow and infiltration or I&I problem, we're subject to the weather. So we're working to correct that. We've received our first tranche of ARPA money, and the vast majority of that, well, that's going to all water, sewer, and stormwater infrastructure projects. So we have a number of inflow and infiltration reduction projects on the books. One's already under construction, our Meadowbrook Interceptor replacement, and we expect to recover significant capacity through these projects. So as I said, we're losing half of our capacity at the treatment plant to rainwater, and we've got to get that under control. And we do have plans in place that are starting to happen now to do that. So with recovering that lost capacity, we believe we'll have a capacity by the time the sewer farm is through the review process and has plans ready, that we will have the capacity before their plans are approved. With regard to the road and the enclave, the annexation plat left Harney Road out for that specific purpose. We certainly expect to have the conversation with county roads about accepting that, much as we did with Antrim Boulevard years ago. You may be aware Antrim Boulevard was surrounded by city property within the city limits on both sides for many years, and the city delayed accepting that until we saw some development in that Antrim Boulevard corridor. But we did have a situation for many, many years where there was a county-maintained road through the city. And Harney Road could be a similar situation. We know County Roads is not going to like that idea, so we're open to having that conversation. The city can accept maintenance of the road, ownership of the road, without annexing it. So we can own property beyond the city limits. Case in point being our Bollinger Park was only annexed within the last couple years, but the city has owned that property for over a generation. So even if we were to accept the road, and whether we would accept it to the northern boundary on the west side or the northern boundary on the east side, a few hundred feet
Right.
difference, we expect to have those conversations. But that we don't have to annex it.
You see that as a non-issue? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. What about
So-
the
Go ahead.
master plan? What about the vision of growth?
Right. So in our In our annexation plan, we did speak to that. We recognize that to be fully compliant and match the comprehensive plan, we would be looking at a mixture of R10,000, R20,000, and open space. That would align with the suburban residential, medium-density residential, and conservation that's shown on the land use plan for our comprehensive plan. So, that said, the proposed development does preserve the open space portion on the western part of the property, and the property owners have expressed interest in utilizing our community village overlay, which allows preservation of open space and a higher density, kind of a clustering type of approach, where we concentrate the infrastructure and preserve more open space is kind of the driving factor for that ordinance. So, as development is proposed, it does cluster the development towards the west side of Harney Road in the area that on the map that was shown before was the yellow. There's no development proposed currently for the portion on the east side of Harney Road. But overall, it's putting houses where we said there were going to be houses, but it's putting a higher density there. But it is preserving the open space that sorts the wooded part of the property to the west. So it does align in broader terms, but we fully acknowledge that, yes, to be completely consistent with the comprehensive plan, we would be looking at a mixture of 3 zoning designations instead of R10 in its entirety.
Okay, good.
What about this property in the middle? You're jumping over a property to annex someone in. What are the intentions of the town on that?
Right. We have had some conversations with that property owner. They have expressed some interest in coming into the city. The mayor and council did not want to, unfortunately, at that point, the Sewell annexation was already underway, and they did not want to change that process by adding additional properties to it. Long-term, we certainly envision that property coming in as a mixture of residential and commercial. That's how it is in our comprehensive plan, with commercial being along the 140 frontage. But we decided to pursue that as a separate annexation in the future.
The Sewell property is being sold to a developer, or is the Sewell property doing the development?
My understanding is there is a developer as a contract purchaser. I'll let Mr. Schaefer speak to that as he represents the property owner.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I like that answer about not having to worry about that road if, there's an agreement that could be made between the town and the county on maintaining that road. I mean, why make things too difficult? So.
And we expect when we are going through the subdivision planning process that County Roads is going to come up with their list of comments. The developer is going to have to address those comments and agree to whatever road improvements the county requires while it's a county road.
Mm-hmm.
And in our, I'm thinking back to Antrim Boulevard, where we had a similar, not an issue regarding annexation, but we had an issue regarding development of a particular parcel that was adjacent to the road. And in order for that project to move forward, we had to work out basically a deal with the county, with the Roads Bureau, and we ended up accepting Antrim Boulevard in order to make that project come to fruition.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see a similar scenario. We fully expect the county is going to say you need to do A, B, and C to Harney Road so that you can have access and so on. But on a parallel path, I expect we'll be also talking with the roads folks about eventual acceptance of that and how that's going to be timed with regard to development of the Sewell property.
Well, the Harney Road is my preferred route to go to Gettysburg on motorcycles. I've seen a development take place on the corner of Harney and 140, and that's R10,000, am I correct?
That's actually R7500 on
R70, so it's even tighter. So this potential development would be incomparable to that which has already taken place. My concern is, I'll ask Commissioner Wance, since these are his constituents, when development like this takes place down in the southern end, either Eldersburg or Mount Airy, the pitchforks come out and the torches come out and we hear it. I'm just wondering what the feel is for the community out there and whether Commissioner Wance has heard any outcry or citizens want this. It's not my district, so I really put a lot of emphasis onto his constituents and the concerns he's heard.
I'm gonna await the public hearing that the town is gonna have on May the 4th, and I think
Okay.
that will be answered then.
Yeah.
Specifically, I certainly haven't heard anything, but
All
I
right.
don't know that I would at this point. But I do applaud the town for having that public hearing, and
Good.
we'll see what comes out then, so.
So-
I do know that intersection that you're talking about needs some assistance. That's been a tough intersection for a lot of years. Quite frankly, you have to almost turn right in order to turn left appropriately. So we're anticipating that this probably will help to push some improvements there from SHA to at least look at some sort of improvement there. Would you agree with that, Jim?
I expect there to be some changes to that intersection, yes. And that is something that, you mentioned the Tawnytown Crossing project right on the corner there. That intersection is what I would say we've heard more comment about than the development itself, is that intersection is already bad, more development's gonna make it worse. The comments we have heard so far, of course, we always have the folks that, well, I bought my house here last year and I moved here because of the small town, so I don't want it to grow. And that's pretty typical.
It's a situation here, and I know that.
And I'm sure you hear that as well, but the intersection seems to be the large concern for folks right now.
Yeah, because when you're coming southbound on Harney and you're making that left-hand turn to go into Tawnytown, you have people on 140 heading eastbound on Hyann traveling at a much higher rate of speed. They're not as conscious. They haven't slowed down because they actually haven't hit what they perceive as a city. So it's a dangerous spot to make that turn out because they're traveling usually at an excessive rate of speed and coming at it straight away. It's kind of the same thing we face on 31 at Medford.
So I think
go
the
ahead.
crux of that intersection is, I still doubt that even with development of the Sewell Farm, that we will meet the warrants required for SHA standards for a traffic light to be there. But I do expect that some reconfiguration of the intersection to have it come in at more of a 90-degree T instead of the angle that it's at now.
Right.
And that may be achievable within the existing right-of-way width that's there. That will be up to the engineers who are going to be working on the Sewell design, because I'm sure that's going to be an off-site improvement that's going to be required when we do a traffic study. With the proposed density, a traffic study is going to be in order.
You mentioned that it's going to be R10,000, R20,000 mixed, right, in that?
That's what it would be to be completely consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Because here, what I'm looking at as far as the, annexation number 48 is the proposed municipal zoning is R10,000.
That's correct, yes. So in that regard, as I said, it to be completely consistent with our comprehensive plan, it would be a mixture of those three zoning districts.
So, because part of my concern is that we only limit it to R10,000 and that we have that mixed. So I don't know if that's put into this, or is that just, this is as low as it can go and that's what we do when we look at these things. I'm not sure how to address that. That's one of my concerns, is that what you're saying and what's here are two separate.
Certainly understand that concern.
No, like Commissioner Wance said, I am looking forward to hearing the comments from the community because it's their community. And how many homes do you think are planned in that area, roughly?
I think a little under 300.
Okay.
We've seen a couple rough concept plans, and the
Yeah.
numbers of the proposed units have varied greatly. We did not want to, in our annexation agreement, we kept things very broad.
Yeah.
with the property owners. And while the city has officially begun this annexation process, it was not with petition. It was as a result of the property owners approaching the city. So, this is definitely something the owners are wishing to see.
You can get the road issue taken care of.
I have no doubt that will be.
I think that has to be a town maintenance anyway, whatever.
Right. So I'm sure our public works director is much like yours. The fewer miles we have to push snow on and so on, the better. But he will come around.
Okay, any other questions from gentlemen? We want to hear from Mr. Schaefer in a short minute or two. I don't know if
Could we
that's-
put, Chris,
I don't-
could we put the 3-minute
I don't know if
timer
that's
up, please?
possible.
Actually,
How about a
I
30 second?
I do represent the actual property owner developer who is a stakeholder here. So
You do.
I appreciate your respect.
You always have our respect.
The Sewell property has been in the mix for development and annexation in Tawnytown for about 10 years now. It's a Christmas tree farm. The Sewells are getting older. It was kind of moved forward and then it stopped 6 or 7 years ago because the town was interested, then wasn't. Now the town said, like 2 years ago, said, okay, we're interested. It makes some sense. And so we're here with town support. And I also want to make clear the exact process and procedure that's going on here. The town wants to annex a piece of land. The county is an interested party under the town-county agreement and under any good sense and common sense. The county cannot tell the town no. What the county can do is say, we're not going to waive our objection to you zoning the property for a density higher than its current agricultural zoning, which we clearly are. We're asking for R10 from ag. Under ag, we'd be 10 lots, whatever. We're asking for, and so that's what's going on here. We're asking for a waiver. Now, I found the planning presentation interesting for this reason. It was no, 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 bad, bad, bad. This is why. And then, oh, by the way, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended that you waive. Now, you got to ask yourself why that happened. After that staff report, why is there a unanimous recommendation? But I'll leave that's a rhetorical question, okay? The property's in the growth area boundary. The property, as has been made very clear, it's always, it's envisioned for development. It's envisioned for this mix. Now, Commissioner Rothstein, you're correct, and the planners have said this. If you read the master plan strictly, this is not consistent with it. It's a mix. Well, that's not quite, and I don't agree with that, because the master plan is, number one, a guideline. Number two, the master plan envisions this for a fairly significant development. It's in the long-range plan for water and sewer, so that's another evidence that it's envisioned for this kind of development. We've been dealing with Tawnytown for a year or so now on this. We have an annexation agreement in place. It says the maximum number of units is 340. I mean, the town's not, well, I don't know anybody suggesting they're unsophisticated, but this is not something they're just throwing up against the wall. We've looked at the density, we've looked at the area where we can build on the property, we've looked at the open space, and it's not an enclave. Legally, it's not an enclave. Now, I think we're through this, but I'll mention the fact that the staff report essentially suggests that the county make this an enclave by requiring that the town, requiring the Department that we annex Harney Road, that the town annex Harney Road, which if they did, it would be an enclave. But for a moment, let's talk about enclave.
I don't think we have to.
Okay.
I think we've gone past. I think
Beyond
the intent here is just to gather the information. Tawnytown, I believe, has been incredibly cordial, professional, and very transparent in their approach, and we're looking forward to hearing from the community to then go past that. But I mean, you're doing what you do best in representing the property owner, but I don't think that's as necessary at this point. Unless I'm seeing something different.
I'm trying.
I mean, you don't need to convince me. I'll tell you that much. I mean, I'm convinced to listen to the community, and that's my next step. So.
Well, actually, Commissioner, remember, the board has to make a decision on the 28th, and the public hearing is
on the 5th, right?
4th or 5th, a week later.
Yeah.
So this board has to grant or deny the zoning waiver, because as
Okay, I
Mr.
see what
Schaefer
you're saying.
says, that's
Okay.
the question.
I'm still pretty convinced. I mean, I'm thinking we're all kind of going in that right direction, in the correct direction.
Which is where the direction that I started in, because I wasn't too sure about this either. But when I did hear from the city of Tawnytown and listened to your presentation, Jim, that we had whenever it was, and heard from all the parties there, that certainly changed my mind on this. If Tawnytown wouldn't be asking for this, and the Sewells would be, and Tawnytown would be saying, no, we'd be in a whole different place here. So you don't need to sell, Clark, you don't need to sell the car to the dealership, because the dealership's got it, okay? So I think we've got that part. I just want to be respectful of what we hear, but again, if we grant it and allow them to move forward, that's up to Tawnytown.
Right.
And they're ultimately the ones that are asking for it. And I do respect staff. You all know I've been here 7.5 years, and I always talk about how wonderful our staff is. Sometimes I disagree, and I do disagree with this notion that someone has to take a road. That threw me for a loop a little bit. I'm like, wait, what? So ultimately, I think the respect that we have for our municipalities comes into play here.
Absolutely.
Tawnytown's asking for this.
Tawnytown
knows this is long-range plan. Tawnytown knows it has some work to do to get there. Off we go. That's my opinion.
And just, I 100% agree. I mean, we are not designed to be an obstacle or, a block. We're designed to be as minimal interference as possible in doing our due diligence, but allowing Tawnytown and the other municipalities to grow appropriately and take charge of the properties. I mean, why would we have to wait till next week to make a decision? Can we just...
Is there any reason that...
Huh?
We don't have the comment letter prepared, the draft comment letter prepared,
Well,
but,
I mean...
Which says
if you-
what?
if
Remind us again what the comment letter.
it's merely basically granting the waiver or not. That's what you're going to do in the comment letter,
Okay.
right there.
But if we say that we would like to grant the waiver, why can't we just have the letter written down? I don't understand why that.
I'd like to make a motion to grant the waiver to Tawnytown to deal with the Sewell property. And this allows me not to listen to Clark for another 5 minutes.
I was just going to say,
And with all due-
Commissioner,
with all due
that's the
respect-
best way to shut me up.
And I will rapidly second it.
Okay, is there further discussion? Gentlemen,
I will
you did
just,
well.
I will just state very quickly that as far as the real estate market, some of the most affordable area for young families to purchase a potential house is in the northwestern corner of the county. And I'm a very strong advocate of any housing development take place within the municipalities where there's existing water and sewer. So this does seem like a good fit for our overall objective for the county. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Any other further discussion? Gentlemen, I really appreciate the dialogue. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank
Are
you
you
for your
sure you
time.
don't want to hear any more about
Absolutely
that?
not.
Clark?
Clark,
I'm gonna vote
your
no.
Give up when you
fly's
won.
down.
I can't accept yes for an answer.
Clark, not only did you get shut down, but you were accused of being a used car
Thanks,
dealer.
I didn't say used.
There goes his billing hours.
He always reminds me of Clark Griswold.
That was good.
Okay, let's move on to 2022-23 Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness HMEP Grant application. Scott, you coming up? All right, Valerie. And Mike. Cool.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I apologize, hope you can hear me well. I'm actually going to ask Valerie to take the lead on this presentation. I'll just simply say that we're here today with regard to, as you said, Commissioner, the 2022-2023 Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant application. And as Valerie will explain, it is a bit unique in that, unlike any other grant, I hope it's any other, or maybe it's most
Of the
other.
ones that we manage.
Okay, of any grant that we're involved with, this actually does involve applying versus being advised, here's the amount of some money and developing a spending plan. So if I may, Commissioner Valerie?
Good morning, Commissioners. As Director Campbell mentioned, we are here to ask for your approval to apply for the 2022-2023 Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant. We normally utilize this grant for training initiatives in cooperation with the Hazardous Materials Response Team. We work with them to identify, what training gaps that they're seeing. So we try to utilize this money to apply to meet those gaps. Our proposed application this year is requesting $20,850 for training regarding opioid risk-based response training. There's also a THC extraction hands-on training that's 8 hours, and then also a hazmat IQ class with regard to homemade explosives. Looking at the risk profile that we see and a lot of the somewhat nefarious activity sometimes that's going on around the world. These are things that the hazmat team sees on the horizon that they really want to be prepared for. And this grant is intended to provide some training to help them respond to situations involving any of those items. The performance period for this grant would be September 30th of this year, 2022, through September 29th of 2023. They always threw 29th in there instead of 30th. It does require a 25% match. That can be cash or in kind. We plan to meet that with in-kind funds, with previously budgeted funds, so no additional county funds are required. The match would be $5,212.50. That would bring the total project to $26,062.50. So if you have any other questions, I'll be
I
happy
just
to.
have one. What would emergency management do without acronyms? This whole thing's, got to figure out what all of them mean here, but.
Well, hopefully I didn't use too many without explaining them.
Wow.
Okay.
I'll make the motion, the Board of Commissioners approve the 2022-2023 Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant application to MDEM, as well as accept these grant funds if awarded.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was easy.
That was easy. Easy button. Okay, now let's talk about slurry seal. Approval to piggyback a Carroll County government term contract for microsurfacing 5 roads within the county.
It looks too much like Slurpee Seal.
Slurpee Seal. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for still on
Maybe
board.
it is.
Yeah, we are. All right. So Kathy Burtz, our administrative chief with supervisor with roads operations, and I are here before you today for a couple of items. The first one is we are seeking your approval to piggyback a Howard County government contract, term contract for microsurfacing, or slurry seal as it's commonly referred to, on 5 of our roads. Now, we generally come before you annually. This is one of our preservation techniques that we use on roads throughout the county. Again, our philosophy is the right treatment, the right location at the right time. So Kathy's going to go over the roads that we're going to hit this year, and then we'll answer any questions you may have.
Good morning. The roads that we plan to slurry this year are Union Bridge Road, Lawndale Road, Snydersburg, Bower Sox, and Dennings for a total length of 13.08 miles.
Those, the cost for this project on a term contractor was bid at $450,044.67. You will note in your brief that we have included 3% in that cost for contingent items, such as an increase in the asphalt index and square yardage adjustments. Our biggest concern is the asphalt index, obviously based on the price of oil, which, as you all know, fluctuates minute by minute. So we have tried to incorporate that in our pricing. So with that, Commissioners, if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer them for you.
I'll move the Board of Commissioners approve the Bureau of Roads Operations use Slurry Pavers Incorporated to preserve 13.8 miles of roads using the microsurfacing process for $450,044.67.
I will second that.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's talk about chip sealing now, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So this item, Commissioners, is again a piggyback on a Howard County government term contract. So both of these have been on that. So I just would like to point out this isn't only used in Carroll County. It is used quite regularly as preservation techniques around. And we know that you all sometimes get complaints, and we try to work through those. And we do have an educational process. Commissioner Wentz had asked for many years ago, and those letters still go out to the customers. So I just want to bring that up first. So again, this surface seal or chip seal treatment generally is used on roads that have bigger gaps in them. So the gaps are a little bit too big for the standard slurry seal. And what the chip does is that it gets into the gap. When vehicles drive over it, they drive it down further into the gap, and then we seal on top of that. Our ultimate goal is to keep the water out of the road and out of the base, and again, preserve the road for as long as possible. So Kathy, if you give them those roads that we're doing this year or propose to do.
Okay, this year we will be doing Feezer Road North, number 1, which is up off of Old Tawnytown area. Bark Hill Road, Robert Arthur, Lawndale Road East, Old Bachman Valley Road, Humpert Schoolhouse, Silver Run Valley, Lemon Road, Luckaball Mill Road, Lepo Road, Kaufman Road, Jordan's Retreat, and Roop Road. The total length treated for the chip seal will be 26 miles.
So again, with this process, as with the last one, we'll perform this. The roads will remain open, but we'll have lane closures, signage, and flag folks. About 25 working days for this to occur. And typically, these will begin right around mid-June. We try to do it after schools are out. That way there's no competition with bus traffic or other traffic on the roads. And then we wrap up after that. Any questions, Commissioners?
Nope.
I make the motion the Board of Commissioners approve the Bureau of Roads Operations to use American Paving Fabrics Incorporated to preserve 26 miles of roads using the single seal surface process for $680,000.21. Is that right?
Yeah, that's hard to.
Yeah.
Second. I got a motion, got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Because I know what's going to happen.
Thank you.
You got
I mean,
5.
those letters have helped.
They have. And I think, you brought to our attention, you'll be familiar with last year, if I may, the Pleasant Valley Road. When it first started, we had one customer that you knew personally that was upset. At the end of the day, after the road, they've now said, man, it looks great. And then last year, we also dealt with the fact that we didn't have any paint to put lines back on the road.
Oh, that was true, yeah.
But you guys approved that paint earlier, and we've got that paint in stock. So we are ready to roll this year.
Okay, that helps, so I appreciate that.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris and your team are going to take us through the next 4 actions. Request approval for grant application and acceptance of award, environmental symposium.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We are here this morning to request your approval for a grant application that we are seeking $2,500 from the Giant Company 2022 Healing the Planet Grant Program to help fund an environmental symposium to be held in the fall. As part of our tentative National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, we are going to be required to hold 25 educational outreach events. We thought this was a great grant to kind of set the footing and gather those in the community that are doing outreach on their own, bringing us all together to work collaboratively to achieve these goals.
And there's, anytime we can, I guess, expand our efforts to improve our watersheds, we want to take that opportunity. For example, we just recently had the Partnership for a Healthier Carroll County reach out to us. They want to do some tree planting and education in some areas, and we're helping coordinate finding them locations to be able to do that. They're seeking grants from other granting agencies to help with something like that, and so give us an opportunity to pull together the groups that have a common interest, so that we can, I guess, make the most effective use of the resources in the community and have an impact on our watersheds.
We have, I guess Chris has talked with Mona Becker with the City of Westminster, and we're also going to be reaching out to Carroll County Public Schools, engaging their environmental groups, incorporating kind of a recycling art contest as part of this symposium, hoping that draws people. We will utilize these funds to have giveaways and prizes for those contestants.
I mean, I think this is all great idea and great initiatives. I'm just wondering why we have to sit up here and approve a $2,500 grant and not just delegate that authority down, but that's our way of doing business right now, right? So, okay.
I move the Board of Commissioners approve the submittal of the grant application, acceptance award of the Giant Company for Environmental Symposium.
Second.
I got a motion, got a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination Systems and Analytics Support.
That was a mouthful.
It is.
Elimination System and Analytics Support.
Good morning again, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Yes, we are here to request your approval to award these services to Martel Laboratories, JFS, in the amount of $31,002. Pricing is based on the annual time weighted sampling. This is within the project budget and no additional funds will be needed. And I'll turn it over to Byron if you have any questions about the project itself.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is in support of our laboratory chemical analysis requirements for our National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit requirements. We do these annually. We require to do so many storm events per year as part of that requirement to submit to MDE in our annual report. And this is just to support that chemistry analysis that is done as part of that permit.
I make the motion. I'm sorry.
You look a little bit different than when we're in the stream. Does this have anything to do with the samples we took? Is this where the samples we took go to?
So this is a little bit different. This is just for chemistry analysis. The samples we took were for biological,
Oh,
and that
okay.
would go to an actual
Thank you.
lab. And the bugs don't appreciate the tie as much as y'all
Okay.
do. So.
Go ahead.
That's why I want to find out whether this was what we were in relation to the other day.
I'll make the motion, the Board of Commissioners award Markel Laboratories a contract to perform analytical testing in the annual amount of $31,002.
Second.
I'm not sure if I want to support that $2, but it's all good. Any questions or comments? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
And thank you very much for taking me out in the field. That was quite enjoyable. And I can see how you guys get students involved in programs like that and give them an early awareness of the environment. It was very effective, so thank you very much.
Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
The only complaint is that you brought him back.
They had me out in the woods. They could have got rid of me. That's why I made sure Commissioner Wentz didn't go with us.
Let's go.
Option of purchase for the James Philip Wareheim Jr. property through the county program.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We have two things for you today. We have the James Wareheim, and we're also going for final approval of a critical farm. So, firstly, we're looking at the James Wareheim property on Old Hanover Road. It's 119 acres. It's actually going to be two easements, 70.6 acres and 48.9 acres. These are located in District 1. We'll be retiring 17 lot rights. The cost will be $690,262 and 47 cents. I'm sorry, I didn't change that. That will equal out to $407,756 on the 70-acre parcel and $282,506 on the 48.9 acre tract. Here's the two tracks as they sit along Old Hanover Road. We have a county easement to the north, and just to the west of that county easement, there's a mouth easement, and we also have other applications from this area. So we're building a great preserved area along Old Hanover Road and Cherrytown Road. Here's how they fit with other farms in the area. Picture along Old Hanover Road. And at this time, we request final approval for the James Wareheim property on Old Hanover Road at 707 Cherrytown Road. 119.568 acres for a cost of $690,262.47.
What are they doing up there right now, crop-wise?
The neighbors are making hay on the property.
That's what it's all hay, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, it fits in well, and it's in a good spot, as JP says. So, I move we exercise the option to purchase an easement on the James Philip Wareheim Jr. property, $690,262 and 47 cents.
Got a motion, got a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good job.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Nice piece.
Now we're requesting final approval for a critical farms program for Timothy Hatfield. This is located on Carousel Drive. It's 112.9 acres. We're retiring 5 lot rights. This is in District 4. The appraised value is $835,900. Purchase price $1.3 million. For the Critical Farms program, we pay 52.5% of the appraised value, or 52.5% of the purchase price, whichever is lower. And in this case, we're paying based on our appraised value, which will cost $438,847.50. Here's how the property fits in with other properties. You can see there's a mouth applicant right below. Mr. Hatfield is also a mouth applicant. Picture of the pond below the house.
That's beautiful.
It's a big pond.
It's a really nice place.
You could even duck hunt down there.
I guess you could. Here's a picture of some garden area that he has below the house as well, and some pigs that he has on the farm. So at this time, we request final approval for Critical Farms applicant Timothy Hatfield for 112 acres at a cost of $438,847.50.
I move that the Board of Commissioners exercise the option to purchase Timothy L. Hatfield through the Critical Farms program in the amount of $438,847.50.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion, couple of seconds. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you for all the work you put in. I know there's a lot of legwork and phone work and visits that lead up to this, so
Thank you. We appreciate that very much.
Okay, we're going to go into open admin. First thing I'd like to do is for us to look at the April 7th land acquisition closed minutes from April 7th, dealing with land acquisition.
Oh. Making a motion to approve the minutes of April 7th for closed
Land acquisition.
I'll second. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's what happened. Okay, any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Does anybody have anything for open?
I'd just like to bring up that the
Wanda, you can come on up.
Commissioners have received a letter from the City of Westminster about their water reuse project for our consideration, and we will be making decisions on all those projects in June, I believe. Is that correct? All right.
More or less,
Just
yeah.
let the City of Westminster know it's been received, it's been read, it's in consideration.
Let everyone know, I got a call from Deputy Secretary Bob Finn, you know, a partner in crime here in Carroll County. He's the Deputy Secretary of our Veterans Affairs and a very good friend of Carroll County. He's asking us to take a look at a retired colonel that has recently passed away and dedicate a road in memory of this colonel. It's a good opportunity for partnership with Frederick County, as Jan Gardner is also recommending, you know, a piece of road be in his memory. He's from New Windsor, and he was in World War II and Korean War, Silver Star recipient, which means that he was actively engaged in combat. I have the details. I'm walking it through right now with our chief administrator, and you know, we'll get to a point where we want to either sign or not sign, but just wanted to bring it to your attention that I appreciate the outreach from the state coming to us saying, hey, this is a good thing, and it gives us an opportunity in good partnership with Frederick County. So.
Does it come with a recommended route or options?
Yes.
Or-
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, is there anything else for open admin? Before going into closed, let's see. Monday, April 25th, oh my gosh, time just flies. Walk in the Park, Sandy Mount Park, Westminster, Commissioner Boucher, Commissioner Frazier, Board of Education, Board of County Commissioners joint meeting at 4 p.m. on Monday with all 5 commissioners.
Maybe. I might not be there.
Okay. And it'll be at the
Looking at my schedule, so.
Board of Education boardroom. So this is coming up Monday. Taste of Carroll, I will be attending at the 1623 Brewery. Just for everybody's edification, Taste of Carroll is for the hospice life bridge. It's not, what do they call that now?
Bridging Life or
Bridging
something?
Life, yes.
And I'll probably be at that.
Yeah.
In case you want to put another one down on that one, but I may have trouble with 4 o'clock, so.
Okay. Ooh, that's gonna be tough.
That might be tough to hit both those.
That may be tough. We need to talk about that. We may need to postpone to 4 p.m. if both of us.
Yeah, I'm having
5.
trouble fitting 4 in. My evening's okay, but I don't know that I'll be able to get there at 4 for that meeting. So, I honestly didn't even know it was coming up this quickly again. Has there been an agenda?
So I was gonna talk to you about that, but I didn't want to interrupt the
No,
reading
that's
of the
okay.
agenda.
Let's-
Before we left this
While
week.
we're on it.
Yeah, while
The-
we're on it, we may want to look at postponing this to the first week of May.
The 2 items that the Board of Education sent to us for agenda items, just for your information, were FY23 budget updates. I assume they mean their budget updates, not ours, but they didn't really say. And then updates on state CIP funding. So that's what,
Which neither one of them are going to be time sensitive for a week. So maybe Thursday, May 5th in the afternoon. We have open session until 12. right now, and then nothing after that. That may be
Usually they can't do things until late afternoon.
Yeah.
and that's fine. We can possibly work it that evening. Then
I will. We'll staff will reach out and see.
did
what,
not realize it was popping up just like you. I'm not sure how I.
Yeah, it
missed
came
that.
up all of a sudden, and it just,
Yeah, it did.
And
Yeah,
we got the LifeBridge event. Let me-
right.
Okay.
If you
Well,
are attending LifeBridge, make sure they know because they're going to want you in the earlier session. So I'll talk to you
Oh, okay.
about that.
All right.
So,
Okay.
okay. Apologize. Tuesday, April 26th, release of the FY23 proposed budget at 10 a.m. On Wednesday, we had a very full day for us. 9:45, the Special Olympics opening ceremony. Commissioner Frazier and Weaver will be attending. I will be joined by Commissioner Wance in attending the opening ceremonies of the Bureau of Aging and Disabilities 50th anniversary celebration. And then I think the two of you may be coming over afterwards, right?
Depends on how the schedule works,
right.
I'm not sure.
Because that's going to be a full day event. And then 5 p.m., Carroll County Board of Education, Commissioner Frazier will be attending. Thursday, we have open session on April 28th. Approve and submit application and acceptance of mainstream vouchers. It'll be from, dealing with the CARES Act from Citizen Services. Ms. Eisenberg will be,
will not be.
no, will not be. We completed that action.
That's it.
So we're giving Ms. Eisenberg her time back.
So
And,
just a question.
yeah,
I'm sure the list will grow of items that day, but since we're only doing,
If it remains only one thing and
Can we do
it's
that
not
on-
time sensitive,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
will definitely move it.
can we do that on Tuesday instead of
We-
bringing us in here on Thursday?
If that's,
Yep.
if
Okay.
that remains only the one thing. I
Yeah.
assume you probably have more that just didn't make it to the list yet, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes these get printed, a day or two in
Yeah, yeah, okay.
advance.
But
All right,
we'll take
okay.
a look.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
But we'll make sure that's.
Yep, okay.
and then Youth of the Year Award at the Boys and Girls Club. Currently, Commissioner Frazier and I will be attending at the Carroll Arts Center. On Friday, April 29th, we have nothing scheduled. On Saturday, April 30th, it's a historical tour of downtown Sykesville. I will be meeting at the Sweet Simplicity Tea in Sykesville, and I will be joined by my wife for that event. At 12 o'clock, Integrative Dental Wellness Ribbon Cutting. I am scheduled to cut the ribbon and leave my teeth intact. I have the no. Do I have the podcast on the first, or you have the podcast on the first? Commissioner Weaver.
He doesn't know.
That got moved around for the celebration, the
Do you
parent
have the
celebration.
podcast on the first, or do I have the podcast?
You have the first, I have the 8th.
Okay, I have the podcast on May 1st, and the focus is going to be on the May 15th Celebration of Veterans event. May 2nd, we have nothing. Tuesday, May 3rd, Commissioner Wance will have a chamber breakfast at the Tawnytown Public Library.
I am?
I guess so.
Haven't heard a single word about it.
I signed up for it, you better be talking.
Yeah, that's the only reason I was going to attend.
I have no idea.
Yeah. it
Um,
just- I haven't heard, no one's reached out to me about these things starting already. I don't know.
I have not heard either.
Yeah.
I assume they just.
It was on the calendar.
If you're not doing it, let me know so I don't have to show up.
Okay.
Check.
I heard
Okay.
you were going to sing.
So,
No.
Well,
If nobody shows, just keep it short.
let's, let's find out about
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
could you
breakfast, and then also, if it is, put me on there as well, at least as tentative at this point.
And make sure the commissioners have all the 5 dates that are on their calendars.
Yeah, last year I had the first one out of the gate, and Mike told me they were gonna switch it around and do the other opposite way. Well, apparently that's not happening.
Well, they don't have them in election years, I was told.
He said they were going to this time.
Oh,
really? Did they?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I know there was the discussion. I don't remember the answer.
I have no
so.
idea.
Yeah, we need to reach out to them
Yep.
on that, and tentatively, there's,
Are you reading ahead?
no, it's not on here. But May the 9th is supposed to be the Public Safety Awards that the Chamber does, and I've heard nothing about that either.
Yeah.
And that's going to be here before you know it, so why don't
That's a big deal.
you call McMullen and see what in the world's going on at the Chamber, Wanda?
Okay, all right.
On Tuesday, May 3rd.
He's gone.
What's that? He's back. He's got to be back.
Peggy?
Oh, Peggy's. Oh, I think you meant Mike.
Yeah, that's why.
No.
Okay.
On Tuesday, May 3rd, at 7 p.m., the 7th Annual Drug Overdose and Prevention Vigil will be at the Portico at St. John's up at Westminster. And are you not going to that?
I'm already booked.
Okay. Wednesday, May 4th, I will be doing a ribbon cutting at the Infinity Center down Eldersburg, and just let you know it's a really cool center that deals with child autism. So I'm looking forward to that. Planning Commissioner Wentz will be attending at 6 p.m.
That's not virtual, is it?
Yes.
Oh, the
Really?
evening ones they're doing.
Yeah,
those
we're trying to
Wednesday
keep, the
evenings.
only reason they did the in-person last time, it was, they threw it in because it was so,
Right.
that was the Beatty
Yeah.
thing, so. But
Gotcha.
yeah, the Wednesday nights are
Gonna remain.
gonna try to
virtual.
remain virtual.
Gotcha, thank you.
We have on Thursday, May 5th, the Sheriff's Annual Prayer Breakfast, where we all will be attending at 7 a.m. We will have open session starting at 9. Mako, oh, really? Mike Anderson and Laura Price are coming here
That's the annual tour.
Annual sort of
to
update.
provide a Mako update. I may miss that. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's the, easy.
I'll
That's
be
the
there.
annual tour
Yeah.
that the current president does.
I'm so looking forward to that.
I know you are.
And then acceptance of the Burn Justice Assistance Grant Award, FY22 grant for buses and bus facilities program in Public Works. We will then go into closed, Friday nothing, Saturday, there's Eagle Scout Court of Honors. I have the honor myself of presenting to Mr. Bergamashi in Piney Run at 2 p.m. And Commissioner Weaver will be attending, or will be doing the podcast.
If I may, I have in my calendar a fishing derby at Robert Mills Park on the 7th. Whose district is that? And I'm wondering how it went up on my calendar.
Robert Mill is mine, I think. Isn't Robert Mill in Tawnytown, Chris?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think it's actually a town park, isn't it? Isn't it a town park?
Yeah, it's right
Yes.
behind all those soccer
Right,
fields.
it's
Yeah.
Actually a Tawny Town park.
Right, that's
It's
right
not-
there
Oh, that's
behind
probably
Food
why it's
Line,
not in
right?
our
Yes, yes,
schedule.
that's exactly right.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything about it, but
Well, if you're around, maybe I can join you there. If not, I can help represent us there.
all right.
If you
Yeah.
get any details, please let me
I
know.
will.
Somehow or another, I wound up in my calendar with no details.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Wanda, did I miss anything for?
No, you got them all.
Okay. What I need to do is, we now need to go into closed for land acquisition, and also closed and afterwards for public safety, and then adjourn after that.
Do you want
So-
3 separate motions, or?
Yeah. I think we should, I have make a motion to go into close for land acquisition.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I'll also make a motion to go into close for public safety after land acquisition.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And to make a motion to adjourn after all these closed sessions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Yeah.
4-1.
Wait.
What?
Public safety to make that cybersecurity. Forgot that there was a new.
There's a new category.
New
So-
category.
Hey, it
Right.
gives me an opportunity to hit him
Let
even
me
more. Sure.
withdraw my motion to go into close for public safety and make a motion going to close for cybersecurity.
Thank you.
And now can we adjourn after that?
Well, we didn't get a second on that.
Do I get to withdraw the second?
Yeah.
All right,
Then
I'll
amend your
withdraw the
second.
second.
Amend your second.
Amend the second as stated.
There you go.
All in
Gets a little
favor?
wonky.
Aye.
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 Now, adjourn after that.
Yes.
So we have a motion to, I'm sorry, was your motion to go for cybersecurity?
Yes.
Thank you, we're done.